Chapter 241. Looking at the unresponsive CG, Uchihamadara's laughter gradually died down, then. Keep dancing. Mizukage. The second round begins. As soon as he finished speaking, Uchihamadara's chakra exploded under his feet and he quickly rushed towards Kingxi. Boom. The fists of Kyoshi and Uchihamadara collided again, and then the two of them jumped backwards in sync, and after accumulating strength, they collided with their elbows again, constantly exerting force on each other, trying to overwhelm each other. Suddenly, Kingxi suddenly retracted his force, and Uchihamadara's body instantly lost balance. He staggered as if his feet slipped, and in an instant, a flaw appeared in his waist and abdomen. The powerful insight of the pure eye noticed this instantly, and the body leaned completely backwards, performing a bridge-like movement. He supported the ground with both hands, and kicked Uchihamadara's waist and abdomen hard, kicking Uchihamadara into the sky. Ahoy! Hearing Uchihamadara's groan, Kingxi revealed a slight smile and was about to arrange a combo for Uchihamadara. Suddenly, he felt his body lighten and he also flew up. However, Uchihamadara quickly grabbed Kingxi's ankle at the moment he was in the air, and used the force to throw Kingxi out. Kyoshi and Uchihamadara quickly adjusted their figures in the air and landed safely. This time, the two fought to a draw again. Uchihamadara once again returned to the posture of crossing his chest with his hands. The Afei coat, coupled with the cells of Hashirama Senju, gave Uchihamadara an extremely powerful recovery ability. These attacks by CG were just minor blows to him. However, this passionate physical duel has greatly released Uchihamadara's long-dormant fighting spirit. So, next, it will be a battle of communication with eyes. Uchihamadara is ready to go big. However, Kingxi hasn't had enough of fighting yet. It's a rare opportunity to have such a suitable opponent. Kingxi, who also has the fighting gene in his bones, still wants to continue this kind of flesh-and-flesh fighting. He rushed towards Uchihamadara again, starting the third round of fight. Uchihamadara is also a very proud person. Since Kyoshi still wants to continue the physical duel, he will accompany him. He will not enlarge it for the time being and save it for after the physical duel. Boom! Bang! Bang! The sound of collision continued to echo across this vast plain. At the point where the two men passionately collided, cracks continued to appear on the ground. Kyoshi and Uchihamadara fought frantically with physical techniques. Originally there were some birds and beasts flying in the sky, but now they have disappeared, and no living creature dares to approach the scene of the battle between the two men. Moreover, the battlefield where the two were fighting was constantly moving, and it was already about 10 kilometers away from Uchihamadara's underground base. That is, Uchihamadara's underground base was located in the mountain cemetery in the Frost Country, which is already sparsely populated. Otherwise, the aftermath of the battle alone would be enough to destroy all people and objects along the way. Moreover, the powerful chakra aura that spread everywhere had already attracted major ninja villages to come and investigate. The physical skills duel between CG and Uchihamadara had lasted for nearly 2 hours. Both of them had strong stamina, and they became more and more excited and angry as the fight went on. The intensity of the battle was staggering. The shock wave caused by the collision between the two men spread out in all directions like a raging sea, turning everything into ruins. As time went on, the scope of the battle became larger and larger. The entire plain seemed to be destroyed by a huge disaster. There were bottomless pits everywhere, the ground was broken and dust was flying, covering the sky and the sun. The once peaceful plain has now become unrecognizable and in ruins. After another collision, Kyoshi and Uchihamadara separated, staring at each other at a distance of 30 or 40 meters, breathing heavily. After nearly 2 hours of high-intensity physical combat, even the physical conditions of Kyoshi and Uchihamadara were a little bit exhausted. Kyoshi's originally clean blue and white Mizukage divine robe had now turned black and was tattered. Although the Afei coat that Uchihamadara was wearing could be constantly repaired because it was the clone of white Zetsu, it was also covered with blackened and bumpy marks of fists and footprints from being hit by CG. After a short rest, Kingxi launched another attack. With a flash, Kingxi appeared in front of Uchihamadara. His right hand was instantly wrapped in white bones, forming a huge drill, which poked at Uchihamadara. Corpse vein, dance of the wire flower. Flower. Uchihamadara dodged sideways, then kneed Kyoshi. Kyoshi didn't care that his attack missed, and used Xiaoming Biguna to shrink himself in an instant to avoid Uchihamadara's knee, then recovered again, twisted his body, and extended a bone blade from his left arm, continuing to stab Uchihamadara. Corpse Vein Chun Dance. Uchihamadara calmly dodged again, then turned his palm into a knife and chopped down fiercely, breaking Kingsee's bone blade directly. Kingsee's body lost balance in a short moment. Although he adjusted himself quickly, Uchihamadara still caught this fleeting flaw. After all, the Sharingan is not a joke to you. Uchihamadara lowered his body slightly and threw an uppercut, knocking Kyoji away. His Sharingan spun wildly and instantly determined Kyoji's landing point. He did not intend to continue fighting Kyoji with physical skills. Although he did not lose in the physical skills duel with Kyoji, Kyoji's occasional use of Shayana-biguna made him very annoyed. Moreover, judging from the current situation, even if he and Kyoji fought with physical skills for 3 days and 3 nights, the battle would not have any result. However, his body might not be able to bear it. After all, he used yin-yang release to forcibly extract the vitality of White Zetsu's clone, and with the help of a phase coat, he recovered to his current state. A protracted battle would not be good for Uchihamadara. Therefore, Uchihamadara, who had already enjoyed enough fighting, decisively changed his battle plan. Rat Joe Dog Noon Monkey Pig Tiger, 7 seals were completed in an instant, fire style, great fire extinguishing arrow. Arrow-shaped flames gushed out of Uchihamadara's mouth and shot straight towards Kingsea. Kingsea cursed inwardly, how could this old man be so unkind to his ninjutsu? We had agreed on a physical duel, why did he use ninjutsu first? Chapter 242. His eyes shone with sky blue light, and Kingsea switched from the pure eye to the samsara eye. Sealing technique, suction seal. The flame was completely absorbed by Kingsea, but this also allowed Uchihamadara to achieve his goal. The switching of Kingsea's eyes was clearly seen by Uchihamadara with his Sharingan. Uchihamadara was of course aware that CG had the ability to absorb chakra, but he didn't know where this ability came from. He needed to use this fire escape technique to force CG to use his ability to absorb chakra in order to confirm relevant information. It's indeed the pupil technique of that new eye. Uchihamadara analyzed secretly, the way he switches back and forth is a bit like my Sharingan and Samsara eye, very natural and smooth. So it seems that the ninjutsu cannot be used for the time being. Uchihamadara was very troubled at this time. His Rinnegan also had this ability. Therefore, he knew very well how tricky it was to have the ability to absorb chakra at will. However, his Rinnegan was not on him at this time, so he was a little helpless. It can be said that ninjutsu has no effect on Kingsea. But Kingsea can use ninjutsu to bombard him at will. Kingsea looked at Uchihamadara steadily, very good, you were the first to use ninjutsu, so don't blame me. Putting his hands together, chakra burst out instantly, earth-style, yellow spring swamp. The soil under Uchihamadara's feet instantly liquefied, forming a huge swamp, submerging Uchihamadara in it. However, Uchihamadara was not at all panicked. A large amount of pupil power gathered in his eyes. Azure blue bones appeared around his body and then quickly grew larger. Susanoo, 4th stage. Susanoo, who had grown legs, easily broke free from the swamp and jumped out of it. Then try this move and see if he can absorb it. Under the control of Uchihamadara, Susanoo raised his right hand, and a terrifying chakra aura burst out suddenly. 10 huge megatama appeared in the palm of Susanoo, connected end to end and continuously rotating. Susanoo, Yasaka's megatama. Locking onto Kyoji's position, Uchihamadara controlled Susanoo to launch it, and a series of megatama fell towards Kyoji's position like cannonballs. Humph! Kingsea snorted coldly. He instantly understood what Uchihamadara was planning. The sealing technique can actually absorb the Yasaka megatama. After all, it is an attack constructed by chakra. However, the problem is that the Yasaka megatama is an attack launched by Susanoo, and the kinetic energy brought by its huge body is not so easy to remove. Well, in that case, let's do as Uchihamadara wishes and give him a good shock. Shinra Tensen. The tremendous repulsive force suddenly started from Kingsea and exploded forward, heading towards the rapidly approaching Yasaka megatama. Uchihamadara was stunned when he saw Seiji's Shinra Tensei. Isn't this a pupil technique that can only be used by the Rinnegan? Isn't his pair the only pair of Rinnegan in the ninja world? This guy obviously doesn't have a Rinnegan. And his eyes don't look like the Rinnegan at all. And since he even used the Shinra Tensei, then his ability to absorb chakra just now, could it be a sealing technique? Could it be that he even knows Wangxiang Tianyin? Uchihamadara's scalp suddenly felt numb, and he felt his head was so itchy, as if a brain was growing out of it. However, Kingxi didn't care about that. After he bounced off the Yasaka Megatama, the repulsive force instantly turned into gravitational force. All things are attracted by heaven. The powerful gravitational force, under Kingxi's precise control, pulled Suzanu's right leg and made it stagger. Susanoo instantly lost its balance and fell to one side. Good opportunity! Kingxi shouted, clasped his hands together, and chakra burst out instantly. Water style, water break wave. The high-pressure water flow compressed to the extreme spurted out of Kingxi's mouth, and then cut horizontally towards Suzanu's legs. Sure enough! Even Wangxiang Tianyan can do it. Uchiha Madara's guess was confirmed. Although he had prepared himself mentally, he was still shocked. As a result, the shocked Uchiha Madara was caught off guard by Kyoshi's combo. In desperation, he had to give up repairing Susanoo. He broke away from Susanoo and fell to the ground far away. At this time, he was still wondering why Kingxi could use the moves that only the Rinnegan could use. Due to insufficient information, Uchiha Madara fell into deep confusion. However, Kingxi did not give Uchiha Madara time to continue to struggle. He switched his eyes back to the pure eye, and the pupil power continued to flow in his right eye. He launched the next wave of attacks without mercy. Takamagahara, the sky falls. Countless black huge boxes continued to fall towards Uchiha Madara, who had no Susanoo to protect him. Uchiha Madara sensed something was wrong, and immediately forced himself to stop thinking about why CG could use Shinra Tensei and Bankai Tenon, and dodged quickly. However, the scale of the Great Box 10 was beyond Uchiha Madara's expectations, and dodging desperately was not a solution. So, Uchiha Madara stopped, put his palms together, clasped them tightly, and formed the SI seal. Wooden release, the birth of the tree realm. The ground began to shake, and countless trees broke through the ground and grew rapidly. In the blink of an eye, a huge forest was formed, which forcibly blocked the falling big box sky. Takamagahara. Kingxi's figure began to become blurred, and then disappeared from the spot. He used the pupil technique to teleport to a large box closest to Uchiha Madara. The speed of Kingxi's space teleportation is now very fast. Therefore, all the big boxes in the sky have pupil power marks made by Kingxi in advance, so that they can be teleported at any time and can directly close the distance for a surprise attack. But Uchiha Madara had already been on guard against this move of Kyoshi. Although he did not understand how Kyoshi moved using his time and space abilities, it did not prevent him from being vigilant at all times. Therefore, as soon as Ching Si appeared near him, he immediately noticed him and quickly changed the seals with his clasped hands. Wei Wu Usi, the 4 seals were completed in an instant. Wood release, flower tree world arrives. With the foundation laid by the birth of the tree world just now, the new flower tree world was completed in an instant. Several huge flowers quickly rose from the top of the tree world, then slowly opened, and began to continuously release pollen to the surroundings. Chapter 243. Kingxi's expression changed slightly. This pollen is not resistant to inhalation. Although his Otsutsuki physique will not make him unconscious, it will affect his movements to some extent. So, Kingxi immediately flew into the air and looked down at Uchiha Madara, who had used the initial stage of Susanoo again to wrap his body. The ability to fly. Uchiha Madara's heart trembled. After such a long battle, the opponent still had an unexpected ability that he had not used. However, Uchiha Madara didn't care too much. For him, with Susanoo and wood release, the ability to fly was not that threatening. Takamagahara, hit the box. Kingxi took a deep breath and released another Okashura from the Takamagahara space, then switched to the Samsara Eye and used a Shinra Tensei to give Okashura an extremely fast initial velocity, pushing it out violently. The heavy Okashura, pushed by the repulsive force, flew diagonally downward at an astonishing speed, with unparalleled momentum, like a falling meteor. Along with a huge roar, the big box fell to the center of the flower and tree world with a loud bang. The ground shook violently, and dust flew and smoke filled the air. Under this huge impact, the center of the flower tree world was instantly destroyed and turned into ruins. Uchiha Madara jumped out from the tree world and quickly formed 4 seals in the air, Si Wei Mao W. Wood style, wood dragon technique. The flower tree world that was not completely destroyed shook for a while, and then transformed into a huge wooden dragon. The wooden dragon roared, caught Uchiha Madara in the air, and carried him on its dragon head. The 3 Megatama Sharingan spun rapidly, and surging pupil power overflowed. Uchiha Madara upgraded the initial stage of Susanoo to the point where he grew a lower body and legs in one breath. Susanoo, 4th stage. Immediately afterwards, Susanoo's form changed, turning into something like armor, which was draped over the wooden dragon. In the wooden dragon's claws, was grasping Susanoo's sword. Powerful equipment wooden dragon. Trouble. Kingsee's face was not looking good. He didn't expect Uchiha Madara to be able to use Senju Hashirama's wood release to this extent. This power was close to the Senju Hashirama in the Battle of the Valley of the End that he saw in his memory. Moreover, it could even be combined with Susanoo to form a powerful outfit. The powerful wood dragon roared and rushed towards Kingsea in the air. Kingsea immediately increased his altitude upon seeing this. He did not want to fight against the wood dragon that could suppress the tailed beasts and absorb chakra. Moreover, with the protection of Susanoo, most of his attacks might not be able to break through the defense. He needed a chance to make a fatal blow and kill the wood dragon directly. Brush. Seeing CG flying high into the sky, Uchiha Madara, who had no ability to fly, had to control the power equipment wood dragon and continuously send out chakra sword energy at CG in the air. Kingsea kept dodging Uchiha Madara's attacks, and at the same time inadvertently moved towards one of the more remote large box-shaped swords scattered on the ground. Suddenly, after dodging another chakra sword energy and before the next chakra sword energy arrived, Kingsea's figure became blurred and then disappeared into the air. Uchiha Madara did notice the big box-shaped dragon on the ground, but he didn't think that CG had the ability to threaten him. After all, that was the wooden dragon that bound his 9 tails back then, plus his Susanoo, which formed the powerful wooden dragon. In other words, it can also be understood as an alternative collaboration between him and Hashirama Senju. Therefore, he subconsciously ignored the big box. However, when Kyoji's figure disappeared in the air, Uchiha Madara still sounded alarm bells, and his Sharingan spun rapidly, looking for the location where Kyoji appeared. But it's a little late. Although he discovered the location where Kingsea was teleported, Wei Zhuang Mulong was just about to send out another chakra sword energy into the air, and he was unable to respond effectively and in time. Kingsea perfectly seized this brief moment of stiffness and created a perfect opportunity for himself. Kingsea, who appeared next to Daxiation, flew towards the Wei's Huang Malong without any pause, and at the same time assumed a flying kick posture. Groundbreaking kicks. A powerful kick pierced through the side of the mighty wooden dragon. The Susanoo covering the surface of the wooden dragon seemed to be made of paper and was instantly shattered by the kick. It has been so many years since I last felt the feeling of Susanoo being shattered. Uchiha Madara laughed in anger, 2 lines of blood and tears flowed from his eyes and kept sliding down his cheeks. The instant shattering of Susanoo also caused him a heavy backlash and burden. However, when Kyoji killed the power equipment wood dragon, he also temporarily gave up his air advantage, giving Uchiha Madara the opportunity to attack him. For the angry Uchiha Madara, of course it was impossible for him to let Kyoji go. He had to take advantage of the opportunity before Kyoji went up to the sky again and make him leave something behind. Uchiha Madara put his hands together, formed the SI seal, then opened his hands one above the other and aimed at CG who had just pierced through the power equipment wood dragon. Wood release, all bag techniques. In an instant, 8 huge wooden hands rose from the ground like mountains and suddenly slapped Ching Si from all directions with such momentum that it seemed as if they wanted to beat him into a meat patty. Boom! As the giant hand fell, a deafening sound echoed across the entire plain, the earth trembled, dust flew, and the entire ground of the Frost Kingdom seemed to be shaking. Cough! Cough cough! Cough cough cough! After the smoke and dust cleared, Kingsea kept coughing, his face pale, and a few drops of blood slid from the corners of his mouth. Although at the critical moment, Kingsea used the pupil technique Shaoying Biguna to shrink himself in time and hid in the gap of the wooden giant hand and was not hit directly, the violent impact still made Kingsea feel extremely uncomfortable and he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. As for why he didn't use the eye technique Takamagahara to transfer, it can only be said that Uchiha Madara's ability to seize opportunities was too strong. He immediately attacked when the powerful wooden dragon was broken, and did not give Kingsea any chance to teleport. At that time, Kyoji's earth-splitting kick attack had just ended and he hadn't fully retracted his strength, so he couldn't teleport. By the time he could use Takamagahara to teleport, Uchiha Madara's attack was about to hit him. Although the speed of teleportation was already very fast, it still took time. And it happened that Kyoji didn't have enough time to use Takamagahara. Chapter 244 Uchiha Madara was very satisfied when he saw Cg injured and vomiting blood after his attack. It must be said that Hashirama's wood release is really useful. But King C's mood was not so good. He was injured after fighting against the old Uchiha Madara who did not have the Rinnegan and was not in his prime. Although the injury was very minor and not serious, it was still a bit unacceptable. However, this is also King G's own problem. If he directly enters the Rinnegan Chakram mode right from the start, then Uchiha Madara who does not have the Rinnegan can be easily defeated by him within a few rounds. But the problem is that King C now does not want to use the Samsara I Chakram mode easily unless it is absolutely necessary. After all, for every 1 to 2 seconds he used the Rinnegan Chakram mode, the next movement of the Rinnegan would be delayed by 1 day accordingly. Completing the third fetal movement, allowing the Samsara I to enter the mature stage, and making his own strength reach the level of 6 paths, is King C's current top priority. Therefore, when fighting Uchiha Madara, he did not use the Samsara I Chakram mode. After experiencing the power equipment, Wood Dragon, Uchiha Madara seemed to have discovered a new way to use his Susanoo and Hashirama's wood release. Sure enough, he and Hashirama were a perfect match. Joe Horse Pig Snake, Uchiha Madara completed 4 seals in an instant, then try this one. Wooden release Wooden Man's technique. The broken pieces of wood, under the effect of chakra, instantly merged together, and then quickly grew larger. In a blink of an eye, a wooden man who was almost the same size as the tailed beast and nearly 100 meters tall appeared. Immediately afterwards, the 3 Megatama Sharingan in Uchiha Madara's eyes spun rapidly, so fast that they seemed to be connected into one, and an extremely terrifying aura of pupil power emanated from it. Susanoo, 5th stage. Complete Susanoo. The azure light bloomed dazzlingly, and the materialized chakra quickly wrapped around the wooden man's huge body, forming a layer of solid armor. At the same time, a helmet appeared on the wooden man's head, and Uchiha Madara was standing in the crystal on the center of the helmet's forehead. Powerful costume, Wooden Man. King C exhaled deeply, then spat out the blood foam in his mouth, and looked at the wooden man in front of him with a serious expression. It seemed that there was no way. Even if he didn't want to use the Samsara I Chakram mode today, it would be impossible. The time for the third movement of the Samsara I was destined to be delayed for a while. If it was a simple complete form of Susanoo, or a simple woodman technique, Kyoji was confident that he could handle it calmly. After all, the power of Otsutsuki Ishaiki's physical techniques was no joke. Although Kyoji did not yet possess the strength of the 6 paths level, with his super cage level strength, it was enough to pose a fatal threat to Uchiha Madara, who was not in his prime at this time and relied entirely on yin-yang release to prolong his life. However, when these two are combined, the resulting Wei's Huang Wooden Man does not simply have an effect of 1 + 1 = 2, but an effect of greater than 2, or even far greater than 2. The moment the complete form of Susanoo appeared, all parties in the ninja world sensed the absurdly strong chakra aura. The Iwagakure village, which was closest to Cg and Uchiha Madara who were fighting fiercely on the plain of the mountain cemetery, was the first to react. When the barrier squad of the Iwagakure village sensed this breath and hurriedly rushed to the Tsutsuki office to report to the 3rd Tsutsuki Onoki, who had once experienced Uchiha Madara's Susanoo at close range, had already flown high into the sky with a drastic change of expression, looking in the direction of the Frost Country with an extremely serious expression. The body of the 3rd Tsutsuki Onoki was shaking uncontrollably in the face of this nightmare-like aura that he never wanted to recall. After a long time, he returned to the Tsutsuki's office and sent the envoy to the Frost Country to confirm the guess that he was unwilling to believe. The second thing that was sensed was Konoha village. Although the Fire Kingdom and the Frost Kingdom were neighboring countries, Konoha village was in the center of the Fire Kingdom or even slightly to the south. Therefore, in terms of distance, the location of the mountain cemetery was actually closer to the Iwagakure village. After receiving the report from the barrier squad, the 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen did not take it too seriously. He simply asked his good friend and old friend Danzoshikin from the Hidden Mist village to send 2 teams of root ninjas to explore the Frost Country. After all, he had felt the battle between Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha in the Valley of the End. The aura coming from the direction of the Frost Country was far weaker than that time. Although it seemed to be a little stronger than himself, his Konoha was the largest ninja village in the ninja world, the current leader, the boss of the ninja world. Therefore, there was no need to worry. Next was the Hidden Cloud village. After receiving the report from the Sensory Ninja, the 3rd Reikage AI decisively led a team to the Frost Country for investigation. At this time, the hidden cloud village boasted that it had surpassed Konoha to become the number one in the ninja world. They were actively preparing for the next Ninja World War, and they urgently needed to eliminate all unstable factors that might affect the success or failure of the war. Moreover, with the third Raikage AI, who was known as the strongest spear and the strongest shield, personally taking action, they had nothing to fear. As for the Sand Village, it is not worth mentioning. Although they also sensed the chakra aura, the Sand Village was too far away from the Frost Country. Therefore, the third Kazekage Tessa was too lazy to even pretend and did not send any ninja to investigate. As for the Hidden Mist Village, it goes without saying that the people at the highest level who hold power already know that CG is going to cause trouble for Uchiha Madara, and the third Mizukage Bing has also recognized the chakra aura emitted by Uchiha Madara when he used the complete form of Susanoo. Therefore, they have full confidence in Seiji's strength and are not worried about it, even if their opponent is Uchiha Madara, the Shura of the ninja world who once made everyone in the Hidden Mist Village suffer in the Warring States period. Actually, I originally wanted to write about the Susanoo statue, but after watching the Battle of the Valley of the End and the duel between Hashirama Senju and Uchiha Madara in the Fourth War, I suddenly realized that something was wrong. Would release, True Tree Senju is a ninjutsu that can only be used by Hashirama Senju in his Sage mode, and Uchiha Madara has not yet absorbed Hashirama Senju's Senjutsu chakra, so he can't use Senjutsu, so he can only write the Susanoo statue. Chapter 245. The last person I want to talk about is the mastermind behind the ninja world, the 1,000-year-old villain, Mr. Black Zetsu, who was chased by CG and fled in fear. At this time, Black Zetsu was lurking in Uchiha Madara's underground base, trembling with fear as he waited for the outcome of the battle between CG and Uchiha Madara. He never thought that Uchiha Madara, who was hiding so secretly, would be found by CG who was far away in the land of water. It can be said that Uchiha Madara is Black Zetsu's last hope. If even Uchiha Madara is useless, then he really doesn't know who else in the current ninja world can stop Otsutsuki CG. Moreover, if Uchiha Madara was defeated in the battle with CG, it would mean that his plan to save his mother would be completely bankrupt in this era. It also meant that the dawn that he had waited for 1,000 years and finally saw was once again covered by a deep shadow. In that case, he could only hope that CG would be like his two traitorous brothers and not possess the truly endless lifespan of the Otsutsuki clan. In this way, after outlasting Kiyoshi, he can retrieve the pair of Rinnegan belonging to Uchiha Madara and find a way to restart the Moon Eye plan. Of course, Black Zetsu was mentally prepared for the possibility of not being able to retrieve the Rinnegan, but in that case, he could only find ways to guide the new generation of Indra to create a new pair of Rinnegan. He took off his tattered blue and white divine robe, revealing the pure white combat suit with black Megatama patterns on it. King C slowly floated up, his altitude constantly rising. Finally, King C stopped about 100 meters away from Uchiha Madara in the crystal on the forehead of the power suit wooden man. With a trace of helplessness on his face, King C sighed again and finally made up his mind. All I can say is that he is worthy of being the man who once stood at the pinnacle of the ninja world. Even though Uchiha Madara did not have the Rinnegan, the most important component of his strength, and his condition was much worse than his heyday, CG, whose strength was also at the super shadow level, still only tied with him. However, King C has a trick. The chakra mode of the Rinnegan activated by the Rinnegan after completing 2 fetal movements was enough to completely tilt the balance of power between the two towards King C. Although this would cause the last movement of the Samsara Eye to be postponed, and would delay Seiji's progress in gaining 6 paths level strength, it wouldn't be such a loss if one could take this opportunity to completely seal the deal with Uchiha Madara, who was plotting in secret. After all, the old Madara who hides in the dark and makes trouble from time to time is a potential threat to the Hidden Mist Village. Kiyoshi is not afraid of it, but it is hard to say about the other Hidden Mist ninjas. After all, Kiyoshi is the leader of the Hidden Mist Village now. How can he tolerate Uchiha Madara directing the conspiracy against his own forces? The chakra in King C's body instantly boiled up like a ignited flame. The sky blue light in his eyes became brighter and brighter, and the powerful power of reincarnation gushed out. At the same time, blue-green chakra flames rose from King C's body, like a surging torrent, instantly enveloping King C in it. At the same time, 6 inky black truth-seeking jades appeared behind Ching Si, forming a 7 shape, floating quietly. A suffocating yet noble and transcendent aura suddenly spread out. Tensagen Chakra Mode. Open. It seemed that this series of changes of King C took a long time, but in fact, it happened in the short moment when Uchiha Madara completely stabilized the power suit wooden man. Looking at King C, whose form had changed drastically and exuded a mysterious aura and powerful power, Uchiha Madara on the crystal on the wooden man's forehead couldn't help but reveal a solemn yet crazy look. Come on! Let's dance! Let's see who can dance more gracefully. This is probably what Uchiha Madara is thinking at this moment. It happened in a flash. The mighty wooden man suddenly started to move. With its huge body and unstoppable momentum, it strode forward and punched Kingxi, who was floating in the air. Ching-si was not afraid either. With a thought, one of the Dao-seeking jades on his back immediately flew to Ching-si's hand, transformed into a glove, and was put on Ching-si's right hand. Then he punched out suddenly, and a huge force burst out from his extremely small body compared to the Wei's Huang wooden man. An extremely strange and unreasonable scene just happened. Two fists, one big and one small, collided loudly in the air. Boom! A deafening crash sounded, like thunder, causing ripples in the surrounding air. The sound was like a landslide, or the roar of a giant beast, as if it was going to tear the entire space apart, making people tremble and be shocked. Where the fists collided, the space nearby even produced various fine cracks, and it seemed that it was about to be shattered by this shocking collision. At the moment when the two fists collided, an extremely secret arc suddenly appeared at the corner of Kingxi's mouth, while Uchiha Madara on the crystal on the wooden man's forehead suddenly changed his expression, his eyes full of astonishment and disbelief. Uchiha Madara clearly felt that even though the wooden man had the solid armor formed by the complete form of Susanoo as protection, he was still unable to withstand Kyoshi's punch that seemed to not use much force. After a brief stalemate, first the Susanoo covering the wooden man's fist, and then the wooden man's fist, were shattered by Kingxi's blow. It is worthy of being the Tao-seeking jade formed by the fusion of 7 attributes. Boom! The sound of the two fists colliding was still echoing in the air when another loud bang was heard, and immediately wood chips flew and smoke filled the air. The fragments of Susanoo and the remains of the wooden man's fist were scattered everywhere, as if an explosion had occurred. Uchiha Madara hurriedly controlled the wooden man to retreat quickly, and the ground made mournful sounds under the wooden man's stomping. Kingxi was ruthless and accelerated in the air, flying forward. The remaining 5 truth-seeking jades behind him quickly merged into one under his control, forming a black sword. He then slashed at the right arm of the Wei's Huang wooden man, which had not yet grown a new fist. A fierce look flashed across Uchiha Madara's eyes, and under his control, the powerful wooden man slightly turned sideways and extended his right arm in front of Kingxi. At the same time, a deep blue chakra sword instantly condensed in his left hand. Chapter 246. At the same time that Kingxi chopped off the right arm of Wei's Huang wooden man with a sword, the chakra sword that appeared in Wei's Huang wooden man's left hand also slapped Kingxi directly. Kingxi was not afraid of this at all. The powerful insight of the Samsara Eye had already predicted Uchiha Madara's actions. With a thought, the truth-seeking jade that turned into a glove quickly expanded to form a hemispherical shield blocking Kingxi in front of him. Duan! Kyoshi was directly knocked hundreds of meters away by the powerful kinetic energy contained in Uchiha Madara's attack, but he was unharmed under the protection of the truth-seeking jade. On the contrary, the chakra sword in the hands of the powerful wooden man was shaken by the recoil force from the truth-seeking jade shield, and several tiny cracks appeared. The long sword formed by the truth-seeking jade lost control because the effective distance from Kingxi exceeded 70 meters, and it turned into 5 black chakra spheres again, rapidly spinning after Kingxi, who was knocked away. This scene made Uchiha Madara, who had extremely rich combat experience, instantly realize that the truth-seeking jade had a limited attack distance. Although he didn't know what the approximate distance was, there would definitely be no problem in maintaining a distance of about 100 meters from Kingxi and not giving him the chance to get close. Uchiha Madara clapped his hands and released chakra. While he was at a distance from Ciji, he quickly restored the Victory Man wooden man to its complete state. At the same time, a chakra sword appeared in the newly grown right hand of the Victory Man wooden man. Uchiha Madara immediately arranged the 2 huge chakra swords into an X shape, and then swung them towards Kingxi's position at the same time. Call out! Accompanied by a sharp sound of breaking through the air, 2 huge chakra blades slashed towards Kingxi with powerful and unstoppable momentum. Kingxi couldn't help but frown as he looked at the rapidly approaching chakra blade energy. The Kaihudeo Jade once again formed a huge shield in front of him, blocking him firmly behind it. Of course, the chakra blade energy was unable to break through the shield formed by the truth-seeking ball, but this was also part of Uchiha Madara's plan. Just as the Dao-seeking jade shield and the chakra blade were in a stalemate, a thick giant tree suddenly sprang out from the ground and hit Kingxi in mid-air. Wood style, diamond calling wood. Uchiha Madara consumed a large amount of chakra, causing the giant tree to grow incredibly fast. It crossed a distance of 100 meters in an instant, and arrived at Kingsee's feet in about a breath of time, knocking him directly into the air. Although Kingsee subconsciously ignored the attacks from the ground because of his ability to fly, after all, he was nearly 100 meters above the ground and ordinary attacks could not touch him at all, but the moment the giant tree appeared, it was still observed by the Rinnegan with its powerful insight. However, after a brief thought, Kingji decided to be thrown out by the giant tree, creating a perfect opportunity for Uchiha Madara to attack him as he had lost the protection of the truth-seeking ball. Kingse deliberately wanted to give Uchiha Madara the opportunity to attack him. When Uchiha Madara attacked him, it meant that not only he could not change his moves in time to dodge, but his own defense would also be reduced to the lowest level. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Kingse could directly use his ultimate move and kill Uchiha Madara's powerful wooden man in one go, and then send him to the Pure Land to meet the Six-Path Sage. Good opportunity. Uchiha Madara did not think much about it. Seeing that the plan was working smoothly, he was overjoyed. He flapped the wings of the complete form of Susanoo behind the Victory Man and flew up with the Victory Man. At the same time, the two chakra swords in his hands began to charge. Kingse released the force generated by the collision with the giant tree, quickly adjusted his posture, and released the 3 truth-seeking jades that he had just put away when the truth-seeking jade shield blocked Uchiha Madara's sight, and they were spinning rapidly in a circle above his right hand. As the speed of the seeking truth jade increased, they gradually connected into a whole. In Kingsee's right hand, a layer of light more dazzling than the blue-green light produced by the Samsara Eye Chakra mode emerged, as crystal clear as jade, and as blue and deep as the sea. Then, a layer of silver halo appeared outside the Dao-seeking jade covered with blue-green light, flickering with a faint light, which contrasted with the blue-green light inside. An extremely powerful chakra fluctuation suddenly spread out. At this time, Uchiha Madara, controlling the powerful wooden man, had already approached Kyoji in the air, and the 2 chakra swords had accumulated enough power. Kill! Uchiha Madara roared, his 3 Megatama Sharingan spinning rapidly, trying to lock onto and predict Kingsee's position, and his 2 chakra swords chopped down at the same time. As for Kingji, he was also ready. Everything was in place, except for Uchiha Madara. At the silver halo, a huge tornado pressure rushed out under Kingsee's control. Silver wheel reincarnation explodes. This wave of operations can be said to be directly facing Uchiha Madara's face and using his ultimate skill, which is a face-to-face output. The violent storm, like a surging wave, instantly enveloped Uchiha Madara's wooden man, and then swept it backwards. At the same time, countless densely packed tiny wind blades inside the storm were constantly cutting at the wooden man frantically. At this time, Uchiha Madara didn't know that he had been tricked by CG, and he kept outputting chakra and eye power, constantly repairing the power suit wooden man with all his strength. At the same time, he kept controlling the power suit wooden man to resist, trying to escape from the attack range of the silver wheel reincarnation explosion. Seeing this, Kingse knew that although the power of the silver wheel reincarnation explosion was strong, his Rinnegan had not yet completed its final movement. It was not enough to not give Uchiha Madara any chance to repair and destroy the power equipment Bojin in an instant. At this moment, the other 3 truth-seeking jades that had just turned into shields to block the attack of the power suit Bokujin returned to Kingse and slowly rotated around him. A sharp look flashed across Kingsee's eyes, and he immediately extracted a huge amount of chakra in one breath. Under his control, the 3 truth-seeking jades began to rotate at an extremely fast speed, and the air around them seemed to solidify. A flash of golden light suddenly appeared, extremely dazzling, and the Dao-seeking jade merged into one, forming a long sword shining with golden light, emitting endless pressure. Kingse did not pause at all, he stretched out his hand to grasp the golden sword, raised it high, and then slashed at the powerful wooden man who was still being attacked by the silver wheel reincarnation explosion. Golden wheel reincarnation explosion. Chapter 247. A dazzling golden light flashed by, and the golden sword instantly slashed down at the mighty wooden man. Just as the terrifying attack of the golden wheel reincarnation explosion was about to come, Uchiha Madara's soul was scared and he felt the fear that had not been felt for a long time throughout his body. The body under Afei's coat also seemed to feel the extreme danger, and every hair stood up. At this moment, he clearly smelled a strong scent of death, which made his heartbeat accelerate instantly and his breathing became rapid. Uchiha Madara made a prompt decision and quickly formed 3 seals. His pupil power instantly gathered at his right eye, and an invisible wave spread out. The attack of the Golden Wheel reincarnation explosion fell on the mighty wooden man. Under the attack of the golden sword, the huge mighty wooden man was as fragile as a piece of tofu and was vulnerable to a single blow. It was cut in half in an instant. Afterwards, both the Susanoo armor and the wooden man himself began to shatter under the aftermath of the attack, and countless fragments flew around. Uchiha Madara, who was inside the crystal on the forehead of the wooden man in the majestic outfit, was also split in the middle along with his Afei coat by this attack, and was cut directly into 2 pieces. The scale of the battle between Seiji and Uchiha Madara became larger and larger, their attacks became more fierce each time, and the chakra aura they emitted became more and more terrifying, like a natural disaster. Even a natural disaster might not be as terrible as the impact caused by the fight between the two. Especially when the Golden Wheel reincarnation exploded and instantly chopped the power suit wooden man into pieces, the chakra aura that exploded and spread reached a peak. The space around this plain in the mountain cemetery has been almost completely torn apart, with dense space cracks everywhere, constantly swallowing up all matter. The ground has also cracked due to the violent vibration, forming countless bottomless cracks. The air is filled with a strong smell of dust, making it difficult to breathe. The mountains in the distance collapsed in the aftermath of the battle, huge rocks rolled down, and smoke and dust billowed. The rivers dried up, the lakes disappeared, and the scene was desolate. The trees in the forest were uprooted and flew in the air, as if the end of the world had come. The Konoha village and the Sand village, which had not taken this matter too seriously before, finally could not sit still. On the Konoha side, the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen hurriedly sent 2 more teams of Anbu, including the Konoha White Fang Hotaki Sakumo, to investigate in the direction of the Frost Country. On the Sand village side, led by Ebizo, he also brought 2 teams of Anbu and hurried towards the Frost Country. As for the Uegakure village, which he had always attached great importance to, the third Tsuchikage Noki flew directly out of his Tsuchikage office, called back the Anbu he had just sent out not long ago, and then he set off and flew quickly towards the Frost Country. As for Kumigakure, needless to say, their third Reikage AI is already on the way. Black Zetsu in the underground base was already in despair at this time. Facing Seiji, who showed his true strength, he didn't think that Uchiha Madara still had any hope of winning, so he hurriedly called for the original White Zetsu and prepared to run away for a strategic shift. Looking at the broken wooden man and Uchiha Madara, who was cut into 2 pieces, Kingsee's face did not show any joy. Kingsee had clearly seen the last few seals that Uchiha Madara had just made, and the strange fluctuations that spread out also did not escape the observation of the Samsara Eye. Combined with the fight a few years ago, Kingsee could be said to have been fooled by Uchiha Madara. Therefore, Kyoji knew clearly that Uchiha Madara used the forbidden Sharingan technique called Izanagi to change the reality that he was killed by the Golden Wheel Tensei explosion. Kingsee floated quietly in the air, with 6 truth-seeking jades slowly rotating around him, waiting for Uchiha Madara to reappear. About half a minute passed, and Uchiha Madara's figure gradually changed from blurry to clear, and slowly appeared on the ground. However, the originally Scarlet 3 Megatama Sharingan in his right eye had turned into a greyish-white color. Uchiha Madara let out a light breath and looked at Seiji in the air with lingering fear. His extremely sharp combat intuition and combat instinct saved him. If he had not activated Izanagi in time, he would have gone to the Pure Land and met Hashirama Senju. Seeing the reappearance of Uchiha Madara, Kingsee, who had been waiting for a long time, took action instantly, and like an arrow from a bow, swooped down from mid-air towards Uchiha Madara on the ground. Uchiha Madara's face changed and he used Izanagi. Although he had just been resurrected and still had a spare Sharingan that could be replaced at any time, Kingsee did not give him time to replace his eyes. Not only that, the Izanagi just now also consumed a lot of his chakra and pupil power. Even when he was in good condition, he still couldn't beat Kingsee in a fight, so now he was even less of an opponent. So, Uchiha Madara turned around, chakra burst out, and quickly rushed in the opposite direction. At the same time, he continued to gather the remaining eye power, and a blue skeleton vaguely enveloped his body. Susanoo, 5th stage. Uchiha Madara pushed Susanoo directly to the complete state in one breath. At this moment, only the complete Susanoo could give him a sense of security. The ground split instantly. When Kingsee saw the appearance of the complete form of Susanoo, the corners of Kingsee's mouth slightly curled up while he was falling rapidly in the air. Chakra quickly flowed to his right leg, and he kicked it without saying a word. This kick was like a thunderbolt, with endless might and power. Before the newly appeared complete Susanoo could make any move under Uchiha Madara's control, it was hit hard by Kingsee's flying kick. Click! Only a cracking sound was heard, and Kingsee's foot directly penetrated the body of Susanoo, tearing it apart completely, and then exploded with a loud bang. The shattered chakra fragments of the complete Susanoo flew everywhere, as brilliant as fireworks. Uchihamadara's remaining Sharingan was almost bulging out of its socket as he watched everything that was happening in disbelief. If we say that the powerful wood dragon was crushed by Kingsee's kick not long ago, it was because he was only using the 4th stage of Susanoo, but now he is using the complete Susanoo with the power of all things. Uchihamadara never expected that the complete form of Susanoo, which he was so proud of, would be shattered by Kingsee with just one kick. Chapter 248. Moreover, Kingsee did not give Uchihamadara a chance to breathe. He flew towards Uchihamadara, who was exposed in the air because of the shattering of his complete form of Susanoo, like a ghost. At the same time, one of the truth-seeking jades surrounding Kingsee quickly changed its shape and turned into a black sword that flashed with cold light. Kingsee grabbed the Dao-seeking jade sword and stabbed it straight into Uchihamadara's chest with incredible speed. The attack was as fast and fierce as lightning, leaving Uchihamadara, who had lost his support in the air, with no way to avoid it. Although Uchihamadara tried his best to twist his body to avoid having his heart pierced, he was still pierced directly through the chest by the truth-seeking jade sword. Wow! As Kingsee pulled the truth-seeking jade sword out of Uchihamadara's chest, a mouthful of blood spurted out of his mouth uncontrollably. Kingsee dodged and came to the side of Uchihamadara, avoiding being sprayed with Uchihamadara's blood, and then swung his sword horizontally. This time, Uchihamadara had no room to hide, and was once again cut into 2 pieces by Kingsee. Uchihamadara's body fell weakly to the ground, but just before hitting the ground, it turned into a residual image and then disappeared completely. There was no sadness or joy on Kingsee's face. Uchihamadara still had the Izanagi in his left eye to use, so he was not surprised by this scene. However, this is also the last life of Uchihamadara. After 2 Izanagi, both of his eyes will be blind. The next attack will be a fatal blow to him. This time, Kingsee waited quietly in the air for about a minute, and Uchihamadara's figure appeared on the ground again. The moment Uchihamadara appeared, Kingsee locked onto Uchihamadara's position and rushed straight towards him, but Uchihamadara did not move. He stood in place and immediately began to make hand seals. Hai Su Yu Shen Wei, the 5 seals were completed in an instant. The art of spiritual communication. The outer demon statue. Huge white smoke rose up, and the outer path demon statue was summoned from the underground base by Uchihamadara. That huge body blocked the path of Seiji, who was flying rapidly towards Uchihamadara. Uchihamadara was also getting anxious. Although the Gaiden demon statue was his most important treasure that could not be damaged, now only with the help of the body of the 10 tails could he buy enough time to replace his eyes. Although having eyes or not does not prevent Uchihamadara from using Susanoo, even the complete Susanoo, his Sharingan, which has lost its light due to the use of Izanagi, can no longer provide him with any insight. The insight provided by the 3 Megatama Sharingan is extremely important for Uchihamadara, who is already unable to defeat Kiyoshi. Roar! The demon statue raised its head and roared at Ching Si. The sound was deafening, as if it was going to tear the entire space apart. The chains on its body were instantly broken, and countless fragments flew everywhere. Then, its huge body suddenly rushed forward, with unparalleled momentum and strength, and punched Ching Si hard. The fist wind swept over with a whistling sound, bringing up a strong airflow, but Kingsee was not afraid at all. The Samsara Eye lit up with a brilliant sky blue light. Kingsee predicted the attack range of the outer path demon statue's punch. He braked suddenly in the air, stopped his forward movement, and then dodged to avoid the powerful punch. Afterwards, Kingsee flew backwards quickly, and at the same time, he put his hands together. A large amount of pupil power burst out, and a mysterious and powerful chakra aura began to gather in Kingsee's hands. When the outer path demon statue saw that its attack missed, it roared in anger again and strode after Ching Si. However, Kingji had already completed his ninjutsu. He slowly opened his clasped hands, and a high-density concentrated chakra ball that was deep black in color appeared between his palms. Carefully holding up the chakra ball, as if it had infinite weight, Kingsee raised his hand slightly and sent it high into the sky. Suddenly, a dazzling white light burst out from the black chakra ball, like a bright star in the sky, and the light contained an endless and heart-pounding aura. Earth Explosion Star. An incomparably powerful gravitational force suddenly descended, and the already broken ground around it became even more chaotic. Countless stones were attracted by the black chakra ball emitting dazzling white light in the sky. The forward steps of the outer path demon statue came to an abrupt halt due to the sudden powerful gravitational force. Its huge body was completely useless in the face of the gravitational force of the Chibaku Tensei. It was sucked into the air and kept approaching the black chakra ball in the sky. In just a few breaths, a huge rock sphere formed in the air, trapping the outer golem firmly inside. However, Uchiha Madara also achieved his goal. With the help of the short time bought by the outer path demon statue, his eyes had turned scarlet again, and the 3 Megatama Sharingan was constantly rotating. Uchiha Madara completed the replacement of his eyes and regained his sight. When CG just launched the Chibaku Tensei, he used the complete form of Susanoo in time and flew out of the gravitational range of the Chibaku Tensei. At this point, he was no longer surprised that Kingxi could use the Chibaku Tensei, which was considered powerful even among the abilities of the Rinnegan. Kingxi had already used the sealing techniques, the Shinra Tensei, and the Tensei of all things, so what was so strange about the Chibaku Tensei? As for the outer path demon statue sealed in Chibaku Tensei, Uchiha Madara did not care too much about it. As long as he was still there, he could summon the outer path demon statue out of Chibaku Tensei at any time. Moreover, Uchiha Madara, who was quite familiar with the Chibaku Tensei technique, also knew very well that it was not a trick that could be maintained for a long time. Uchiha Madara was already planning his retreat. He knew that in his current condition, he could no longer continue to dance. Without the Samsara Eye, he could never be a match for CG. Otsutsuki CG, you deserve to die. Inside the underground base, Black Zetsu, who had already merged with White Zetsu to become the black and white yin and yang and was preparing to escape, felt the familiar fluctuations of the Chibaku Tensei, and his eyes couldn't help but reveal a deep-rooted hatred. It was this jutsu, this damn Chibaku Tensei, that sealed my mother. Chapter 249. The head of the black and white yin and yang man slowly emerged from the ground. Heizetsu looked at the rock sphere floating in the sky with a complicated expression, and then he directly activated the mayfly technique and left the mountain cemetery, the place that had made him fall into despair. He had to escape quickly before Kyoji killed Uchiha Madara completely, otherwise after the battle, Kyoji might use some means to catch him. His mother is still waiting for him to rescue her from the 1000-year seal, he can't just be caught like this. Kingxi looked at his masterpiece with satisfaction, then accelerated suddenly to chase after Uchiha Madara. Kingji didn't care much about Uchiha Madara, who had replaced his new pair of 3 Megatama Sharingan. Since he had already paid the price of delaying the third fetal movement and activated the Samsara Eye Chakra mode, 1 or 2 minutes didn't matter. It was just a matter of killing Uchiha Madara 2 more times. Chakra continued to gather in his right hand, and while flying, Kyoji launched a swift palm strike towards Uchiha Madara's huge complete form of Susanoo. God Air Attack! Rapid waves were heard in the air, and a huge translucent chakra fist struck directly on the back of the complete form of Susanoo. Click! Accompanied by a shattering sound, dense cracks appeared on the place where the complete form Susanoo was hit by Kyoji's divine sky strike, but it was quickly repaired by Uchiha Madara. However, the complete form Susanoo, which was flying fast in the air, was also staggered by the powerful kinetic energy of the divine sky strike, and its speed dropped slightly. The complete form of Susanoo was slowed down, allowing Kingxi to close the distance and quickly catch up. Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. Kingxi didn't say much to Uchiha Madara. The 6 truth-seeking jades spun rapidly at his side and merged into a golden sword. He raised his hand and fired another Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion at the complete form of Susanoo. Uchiha Madara once again felt the breath of approaching death, and had no choice but to activate Izanagi once again, rewriting the reality that he would be killed by Kyoji again. He had just replaced his pair of 3 Megatama Sharingan not long ago, and yet one of them was destroyed. A moment later, Uchiha Madara appeared again, and without any hesitation, he turned around and ran away. At the same time, he took out his collection of Sharingan again, preparing to replace the one that had just been blinded. This time, he can't wait until both Sharingan are blind before replacing them. I'm afraid Kingxi will never give him this opportunity. However, Kyoji had been keeping an eye on Uchiha Madara for a long time. When he saw him take out the glass container bottle containing the Sharingan, he immediately knew what Uchiha Madara was planning. So, how could Kyoji fulfill Uchiha Madara's wish? After using the Silver Wheel Samsara Explosion once, he used the Golden Wheel Samsara Explosion twice in a row. Although Kingxi's chakra recovery speed was very fast, at this time, his chakra amount was still less than half of his peak period. If Uchihamadara keeps using Izanaga like this, he might actually run away. All things are attracted by heaven. Kingxi directed his gravity towards the glass container bottle in Uchihamadara's hand. Before Uchihamadara could take out the 3 Megatama Sharingan soaked in it, he directly sucked the bottle over, cutting off Uchihamadara's idea of changing his eyes in time. Shinra Tenzen. Then, when the bottle flew towards Kingxi, he instantly converted the gravity into repulsion, and smashed the glass container bottle into pieces in mid-air. Seeing this, Uchihamadara had to temporarily give up the idea of changing his eyes. His pupil power burst out instantly, and the complete form of Susanoo appeared again. He concentrated his energy on avoiding the next round of attacks from Kingxi. At this time, Kingxi had already approached Uchihamadara. Seeing the sudden appearance of the complete form of Susanoo, Kingxi was not surprised at all. This was the only trick left for Uchihamadara. When he was about to reach the complete form of Susanoo, Kingxi stretched out his right hand, and a grey bone spur emitting an aura of annihilation slowly emerged from his palm. Kingxi accelerated again in the air and directly stabbed the bone spur into the complete form of Susanoo. Corpse bone vein, ash bone technique. Under Uchihamadara's horrified expression, the complete form of Susanoo collapsed instantly, and was turned into ashes by this ash bone with annihilation properties in one blow. Kingxi flashed towards Uchihamadara and kicked him away, then caught up again in an instant, grabbed one of the truth-seeking jades around him, turned it into a sharp spike, and stabbed it directly into Uchihamadara's heart. Izanaga was activated, rewriting the reality of death again, and the old man was killed by Kingxi again. When Uchihamadara appeared again, his eyes turned grey and lost their light again. Very good. Old Madara probably only has one last life left. Kingxi looked at Uchihamadara's grey eyes and thought to himself, as long as we stop him from getting a new Sharingan, he will definitely kill the Six-Path Sage today. Uchihamadara once again used the complete form of Susanoo, trying to make a final struggle, but suddenly, he couldn't help spitting out a large mouthful of blood, and his breath instantly became weak. The materialized chakra of the complete form of Susanoo that had just been fixed also began to shake and dissipate like rootless duckweed. Uchihamadara was shocked, he never thought that he would be the first to give up. He was still thinking of using Izanaga to consume all of Kyoshi's chakra first. Uchihamadara's body, covered by a Fiai's coat, began to undergo amazing changes at this time. The smooth and delicate skin that had regained its youthful state due to yin-yang escape is gradually becoming rough and losing its luster and elasticity. My hands also began to become dry, as if they had been eroded by time. The wrinkles on his face are crisscrossed like ravines, showing endless vicissitudes and fatigue. The originally dark and thick long hair turned dull and yellow like dead grass. His strong body quickly became thinner like a deflated ball, and his ribs were sticking out from his chest. Uchihamadara's time has come. After several hours of fierce fighting with Seiji, the vitality that Uchihamadara absorbed from the outer path demon statue and the white Zetsu clone using yin-yang release was finally exhausted after being hit by Seiji's repeated attacks. Uchihamadara once again turned into the appearance of an old man who was in his twilight years and was about to die, which was completely beyond Uchihamadara's plan. Originally, according to Uchihamadara's estimation, the vitality absorbed from the outer path statue and the white Zetsu clone through yin-yang release should be enough for him to fight for a whole day. However, now, it was used up in less than half a day. It has to be said that the intensity of the fight with Seiji far exceeded Uchihamadara's expectations of the progress of the battle, and greatly accelerated the rate at which he consumed his vitality. Chapter 250. Kingxi immediately noticed that something was wrong with Uchihamadara and couldn't help but smile. Now, old man, you are going to be killed whether you live or not. Now that you have returned to your old state, it is even more impossible for you to put up any effective resistance. While you're sick. Kill you. All things are attracted by heaven. Kingxi raised his hand and used the all-seeing attraction. A tremendous gravitational force burst out and sucked Uchihamadara, who had just recovered his old state, over. But Uchihamadara is Uchihamadara. Even though his strength has dropped sharply due to his return to old age, he has not given up the idea of fighting back. While being sucked in by gravity, Uchihamadara forcibly controlled his body, adjusted his posture, and prepared to give Seiji a fatal blow. But how could Kingxi give Uchihamadara this opportunity? Slightly sideways to avoid Uchihamadara's punch, Kingxi grabbed Uchihamadara's neck with his backhand, lifted him up, and said the classic words of Uchihamadara, "You, want to dance too?" After hearing this, Uchiha Madara's eyes were red with anger. Otsutsuki CG, you deserve to die. You actually dared to steal his lines. However, the angry Uchiha had no chance to refute anything. As soon as he finished speaking, Kingsley forcibly peeled off a phase coat from Uchiha Madara's body, and then struck Uchiha Madara's heart with a clean and sharp palm. Although it was just an ordinary palm, it was not something that Uchiha Madara, who had regained his old age and lost the protection of his Afei coat, could easily resist. Uchiha Madara's heart was shattered directly by Kingsley's palm. Ugh! A mouthful of blood spurted out of Uchiha Madara's mouth, but Kingsley did not dodge. With a thought, a truth-seeking jade turned into a small shield to block all the spraying blood. Ah! I can't believe it. At the end of his life, Uchiha Madara showed a smile on his old and dry face. Besides Hashirama, there is actually someone who can defeat me. The blue-green chakra flame slowly converged and dissipated into nothingness. Through the Rinnegan, Kingsley could clearly observe that the fire of life in Uchiha Madara's body was about to go out, so he closed the Rinnegan, cancelled the Rinnegan chakra mode, and returned to normal. Otsutsuki CG, you are very good. Uchiha Madara's words were intermittent, and his breath was getting weaker and weaker. I will remember you. After saying that, Uchiha Madara closed his eyes, his hands fell down weakly, and he lost all breath. Uchiha Madara, die! Putting Uchiha Madara's body on the ground, Kingsley let out a long breath, feeling relieved. Finally Uchiha Madara was killed. Gently brushing off the dust on his combat uniform and smoothing out the wrinkles caused by the fierce battle, Kingsley took a deep breath and sat on the ground. Kyoshi did not conduct further examination on Uchiha Madara's body. Uchiha Madara's eyes could no longer activate Izanagi, and he did not sense any signs of Uchiha Madara using Izanagi. Moreover, this was the end of a once legendary strongman in the ninja world, and he should be given due respect. However, it was this difference in thought that prevented Kingji from completely sealing Uchiha Madara's coffin. The clothes that Uchiha Madara wore had traces of yin-yang escape, which effectively blocked the normal detection of the samsara eye. However, if Kingsley used the samsara eye carefully to examine Uchiha Madara's body, he would find that under Uchiha Madara's combat suit, on the left chest with the face of Hashirama Senju, there was a 3 Megatama Sharingan embedded in it, which was flashing a scarlet light and then slowly dimmed. About 2 hours later, Kyoshi's condition had almost recovered, so he put Uchiha Madara's body and the dead special white Zetsu Afei into the Takamaji-Ehara space, and then used Earth Escape to change the nearby terrain, covering up the traces of his battle with Uchiha Madara, and buried the huge rock sphere formed by the Chibuko Tensei that sealed the outer path statue deep underground. As for Uchiha Madara's underground base, it had been basically destroyed by the aftermath of the battle, and the hole that was created by Kingji's divine attack had also been covered up. Moreover, Kingji was not so interested in some of Uchiha Madara's collections that might be there, so he did not waste time searching, but directly activated the eye technique and returned to the Hidden Mist village. In the Mizukage's office, a group of informed Kirigakure high-ranking officials, such as the 3rd Mizukage Bing, the elder Yuanshi and others, were waiting for Kingsley's return. The violent chakra fluctuations coming from the direction of the Frost Country had stopped for a while, and they understood that the battle over there must have come to an end. Although they were not sure of the result, they firmly believed that the final winner would be their own 4th Mizukage. After all, they have already learned some of the truth about the ninja world, and they deeply understand the meaning of the surname Otsutsuki. They also deeply know how terrifying the power of Ciji, the 4th Mizukage, is. They don't think that an already old Uchiha Madara would be a match for their own Mizukage. A space vortex slowly appeared in the Mizukage's office. The next second, Kingsley's blurry figure emerged, then gradually became clear and appeared in front of everyone. Lord Mizukage. Everyone stood up and showed enough respect to Kingsley. Ciji nodded, motioned to everyone, and sat down at his desk. 4th generation. The 3rd generation Mizukage Bing asked, what was the result? Kingsley smiled, took out the body of Uchiha Madara and the body of the special white Zetsu Afei from the Takamaji-Ehara space, and placed them on the ground in front of everyone. Chapter 251. Looking at the corpse of Uchiha Madara, who was still emitting invisible power even after death, the 3rd Mizukage Bing opened his eyes, squinted his eyes and confirmed excitedly, there is no mistake. This is Uchiha Madara. The others quickly gathered around, carefully sizing up this former Shura of the ninja world, while constantly marveling at the power of their own Mizukage. I will hand over Uchihamadara's body to your medical department, as well as this rather special white zetsu. I hope it will be of some inspiration to your research. Kingxi said to Chino Kizuna calmly, after you finish your research, just hand over the bodies to Amato in the research laboratory. Yes. Please rest assured, Lord Mizukage. Chino Kizuna looked extremely excited. This was the body of Uchihamadara, which could be said to be an excellent research material. The land of frost, the graveyard of mountains, the plains. The place where Seiji and Uchihamadara fought, people from all sides of the ninja world who came to investigate arrived here one after another. They looked at the traces of battle that stretched for dozens of kilometers, the completely changed terrain and the collapsed and broken mountains, and remained silent for a long time. Even though he used the super light and heavy rock technique to fly at high speed, the third Tsuchikage Noki, who arrived first, was unable to see the two sides of the battle, let alone the other parties that followed. However, just by looking at the battle traces processed by Kingji, he could roughly guess the scale of the battle and the strength of the two sides. This result deeply shocked all the ninjas who came to investigate. This kind of battle that changed the terrain and caused destruction over a range of dozens of kilometers was truly terrifying. They can easily speculate that both sides of this battle, no matter which one, may have the power to destroy an entire country by one person. Moreover, the country here refers to the big countries. As for the small countries, let alone, they will not be taken seriously in front of such a strong man. This kind of battle scene, which can be described as a natural disaster or even more terrifying than a natural disaster, is something that they think the strong men in their village cannot do. This reminded them of the village's records of the horrific battle between Hashirama Senju and Uchihamadara, in which mountains were moved and seas were filled. Although the battle in the Frost Country had not reached that outrageous level, it was not far off. The only two Kage who came to investigate in person, the third Tsuchikage Onoki and the third Reikage Ai, still retained a little confidence after the investigation. With their strength, if they exerted their full strength, they could indeed change the terrain, but the range would not be so terrifying. The third Tsuchikage Onoki had already identified one of the parties in the battle. It was none other than Uchihamadara, the Shura of the ninja world who had once given him nightmares. The slash marks on the ground and on the mountains, as well as the aura of Susanoo that still lingered in the marks, made Onoki extremely certain that this was caused by Uchihamadara. However, Onoki finally chose to conceal this information. He couldn't let this news spread out. There are still many ninjas in the ninja world who have experienced the Warring States period. If the news that Uchihamadara, this terrifying guy, is still alive comes out, it is hard to say what kind of impact it will cause. He also kept convincing himself in his heart that based on his age, Uchihamadara should be an old man with half of his body about to be buried in the ground. In addition, after experiencing such a high-intensity battle, he probably would not have many years left to live. On the Konoha side, the root ninja sent by Danzoshikan found some fragments of the wood release artifact in a hidden location, and put them in a storage scroll and took them back. This also aroused Danzo Shimura's desire for wood release. Since there are other people in the ninja world who have reproduced wood release besides Hashirama Senju, then Danzo Shimura can do it as well. So, after the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen ordered the cessation of the wood release experiment, he continued to secretly conduct various research and experiments on wood release in Hashirama's cells. Finally, he joined forces with Orochimaru, one of the three ninjas, to conduct research. Of course, this is a story for later. 3 days later, when China no Hojiki and Minako Ringo had completed the preliminary research on Uchihamadara's cells and were preparing to conduct a detailed examination of Uchihamadara's body, an accident occurred. When Chino Kizuna and Minako Ringo removed the clothes from Uchihamadara's body, they were surprised to find that on the left chest of Uchihamadara, there was not only a human face, but also an eye that had completely lost its luster and turned grey. And this grey-white eye that had lost its luster was now emitting a strange chakra fluctuation that was imperceptible without careful perception. Feeling something was not right, Chino Kiyoshi immediately informed Seiji. How could a corpse still produce chakra? After Kingxi arrived, he only took one look and his face darkened, transcribing the seal, the pupil technique of the Sharingan, delayed the activation of Izanagi for 3 days. You are really amazing, worthy of being Uchihamadara. He understood that he had been tricked by old Bantu again. Looking at the corpse of Uchihamadara that slowly disappeared in front of his eyes, Seiji gave a helpless smile and said to Chino Kizuna and Minako Ringo, Uchihamadara has resurrected. I failed to completely kill him. Lord Mizukage? Ringo Minako asked in confusion. She had never experienced a ninja being resurrected after being dead for several days, even if the corpse was that of the legendary Uchiha Madara. Izanagi is the forbidden eye technique of the Uchiha clan. It is a terrifying eye technique that can make things that are unfavorable to oneself not happen, and only choose things that are beneficial to oneself to rewrite into reality. However, after using it, the Sharingan that casts the technique will lose its light. CG sighed and explained to Chino Hojiki and Minako Ringo. Uchiha Madara used a special Sharingan technique called the transcription seal to pre-transcribe Izanagi into the Sharingan on his chest. When the preset conditions are met, Izanagi will activate itself and bring him back to life. CG continued. At that time, all my attention was focused on observing his eyes. Moreover, after killing him, out of respect, I did not carefully examine his body. Who would have thought that this guy Uchiha Madara actually had a Sharingan installed in his chest to activate Izanagi? At this point, King C showed a little regretful. After all, he did not achieve his full goal. Chapter 252. However, there is no need to worry too much about this. After this battle, Uchiha Madara will not have many years left to live. Even if he has the Outer Path Demon statue to supply him with vitality to help him prolong his life, he may only be able to stay somewhere and barely survive. Moreover, King C's strength is not far from the 6 paths level. Although the third fetal movement was delayed due to the use of the Samsara Eye Chakra mode in the battle, it is ultimately just a matter of waiting patiently for a few more years. If he could defeat Uchiha Madara once, he could defeat him a second time, or even a third time, or a fourth time. King C was not afraid of Uchiha Madara in his normal state. Moreover, another important point is that if Uchiha Madara wants to restore his heyday, or even surpass his heyday, he must take back his Rinnegan. But unfortunately, the person chosen by Uchiha Madara to nurture the Rinnegan, Nagato, has now become a member of the Hidden Mist Village and has been accepted as a disciple by CG. Therefore, how could CG allow Uchiha Madara the opportunity to take back his Rinnegan? So, overall, Uchiha Madara, who had been defeated once by Kiyoshi, was no longer a threat to him. The only target left is Mr. Black Zetsu, who is covered in black. However, CG still has many doubts about the relationship between him and Kaguya Otsutsuki. Before he figured it out completely, the most he could do is imprison Black Zetsu. Chinano, inform the others about Uchiha Madara's situation. It was my mistake this time, but you don't have to worry, he can't cause any trouble anymore. Kiyoshi added to Chinano Hojiki at last, and then left. In the Frost Country, in the mountain cemetery, underground, the underground base where Uchiha Madara was destroyed. An old figure suddenly emerged from the void. It was Uchiha Madara who used the transcription seal to delay Izanagi's activation time. As soon as Uchiha Madara appeared, he felt his own vitality was madly draining away. If it was not replenished, his life would come to an end in a few minutes. However, he did not panic at all. He first summoned a glass container bottle with 2-3 Megatama Sharingan soaked in it, and quickly completed the eye replacement. Then he used the summoning technique again to summon the Outer Path Demon statue that was buried deep underground by King Ji and was sealed. After the Outer Path Demon statue appeared, it immediately extended several white tubes under Uchiha Madara's control, connected to Uchiha Madara's back, and began to supply him with vitality. Hey! Uchiha Madara sighed in relief, but his expression was a little complicated. I'm alive. Damn Otsutsuki CG, I was forced to this point by him. He never expected that Kiyoshi's strength would be so strong, and that he had the same ability as his Rinnegan. This really caught him off guard. If he hadn't had a sudden impulse some days ago to install a Sharingan on his chest and use the transcription seal to seal Izanagi in it just in case, he would have really been defeated by Kiyoshi. Without the Rinnegan and with his strength not at its peak, he was able to fight against King C in his normal state, but facing the man behind him with blue-green chakra mode, he was obviously no match. Before this fight with Kiyoshi, he thought that Kiyoshi was just a ninja with moderate strength but who might be able to bring him some combat pleasure. After all, in his perception, Kiyoshi was a descendant of the 6 paths like him. But after a passionate battle with Kiyoshi using physical skills, his opinion of Kiyoshi changed a little. He was able to fight on equal terms with Kiyoshi, who had regained his youthful state. Although that was not his heyday, Kiyoshi's strength was enough for him to praise. For the first time, Uchiha Madara recognized a ninja other than Hashirama Senju and placed him in a position of special attention. He believed that Seiji's strength was enough to pose a threat to himself and his future plans. But despite this, Uchiha Madara at that time still believed that he had enough strength to educate and kill Kiyoshi, it just would take a little time. After all, he had obtained the wood release of Hashirama Senju, as well as the trump card of wood release and Susanoo to form a powerful outfit. However, as time went by and the intensity of the battle intensified, Uchiha Madara's opinion changed again and again. When Seiji used Shinra Tensei to deflect the Yasaka Megatama that he launched through Susanoo, Uchiha Madara completely changed his opinion of Seiji and completely put away his previous slight contempt for Seiji. And when Kingsley fought more and more courageously, and finally used that unknown chakra mode and that irresistible golden slash, Uchiha Madara already understood his imminent fate of defeat. Fortunately, he had set up the Izanaga's transcription seal in advance, and used the Sharingan in both eyes to cast Izanaga 4 times, attracting Kiyoshi's attention and finally successfully deceiving Kiyoshi. Land of Grass, near the Konoha Bridge, underground. This was a temporary underground base that Black Zetsu ordered his White Zetsu clones to build after he escaped from the Frost Country that day. At this moment, Black Zetsu and White Zetsu were staying here dejectedly. Suddenly, Bai Zetsu felt a sense of calling. He raised his head suddenly with an expression of surprise and joy. Black Zetsu! White Zetsu turned his head and shouted excitedly, Uchiha Madara is not dead. He is still alive. I can sense that he is contacting me. After hearing this, Black Zetsu instantly perked up. These past few days were simply too torturous for Black Zetsu. The plan to rescue his mother had completely failed with the death of Uchiha Madara, and there was no chance of turning things around. He didn't think he could successfully take back the Rinnegan under Kiyoshi's attention. Therefore, Black Zetsu now seems like a salted fish. He has completely lost his dreams and fallen into a deep emo state. And now, what White Zetsu just said was like timely rain, which was the best news for Black Zetsu. He was immediately inspired again. He still has a chance to rescue his mother. Chapter 253. At this moment, Black Zetsu felt a sincere admiration for Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Madara, who had been played around by him almost all his life, could still give such a brilliant performance when he was old, and even escaped from the hands of a real Otsutsuki. So, Black Zetsu immediately asked White Zetsu to meet up with Uchiha Madara, and then induce Uchiha Madara to move the base to where he is now. They definitely could not stay in the Frost Country any longer. The Land of Grass is also an excellent location for developing an underground base. According to Uchiha's plan, he will need a spokesperson in the future to walk in the ninja world on his behalf, monitor the Rinnegan and eventually resurrect him. The best choice for this spokesperson is someone from the Uchiha clan of Konoha village. Therefore, the Grass Kingdom, sandwiched between the Earth Kingdom and the Fire Kingdom, is also a good location to establish a base. A few days later, White Zetsu brought Uchiha Madara, who had almost recovered, to the Land of Grass and opened a new underground base near the Konoha Bridge. After placing the Outer Path statue and using the summoning technique to summon the flame fan and sickle that he had lost in the Frost Country, Uchiha Madara ordered the White Zetsu clones to continue collecting intelligence on the ninja world outside the Hidden Mist Village and to help him find a suitable successor. He didn't want to provoke the Hidden Mist Village where the 4th Mizukage named Otsutsuki Seiji was for the time being. Who knew if the other party would find his lair again? Uchiha Madara still didn't figure out how the passing ninja from the Hyuga clan controlled by Seiji detected him. After arranging everything, Uchiha Madara, who was already old and weak, became even more tired. He hunched over, walked slowly to the seat directly under the Outer Path demon statue, leaned on the handle, and fell into a deep sleep. Hashirama, wait for me. Time flies by like a white horse. It seems like a ruthless giant, taking firm and fast steps, running forward without hesitation. It is also like fine sand slipping through fingers, slipping away quietly through fingers and becoming out of reach. 3 years passed by in a flash, and in the blink of an eye, it was already the 42nd year of the Hidden Mist. During these 3 years, although the 4 major ninja villages of Konoha, Tsunagakure, Iwagakure, and Kumigakure have been recuperating, quietly restoring and accumulating their own strength, small conflicts have often broken out between them. However, all parties are still trying to maintain a state of restraint, and there is no sign of a new round of Ninja World War breaking out. However, the Hidden Mist Village, which is also one of the 5 major gangsters in the ninja world, is located in a land far away from the ninja continent. It ignores the disputes in the ninja world and continues to develop. Its overall strength has undergone a drastic change. The strength of the Kirigakure ninjas has been greatly improved in the past few years. Overall, there are nearly 50 jonins added, and even the number of elite jonins has increased by nearly 20. Even many cage-level powerhouses who were almost extinct in the Kirigakure village before the last Ninja World War have appeared. Under Kyoji's occasional guidance, the 7 ninja swordsmen who serve as the Mizukage's guards have achieved the feat of all of them possessing cage-level strength without relying on ninja swords. It can be said that the high-end combat power of the Hidden Mist Village is definitely ranked first in the ninja world at present, and can basically suppress the current leader of the ninja world, Konoha village. However, in terms of other levels of combat power, it is indeed slightly inferior to other ninja villages except the Sand Village. This is mainly due to the previous policy of the Kirigakure on ninja training, which resulted in the overall number of Kirigakure ninjas being relatively small among the 5 major ninja villages. However, this is not a big problem. Since the reform of the ninja school, there has been a huge explosion in the number of newly trained ninjas. It's just that the time period is not long enough and the effect has not yet been fully reflected. In a few years, the overall strength of the Hidden Mist Village will surely surpass that of the Konoha village as the strength of the village increases and decreases, and it will become the true number 1 in the ninja world. In June of the 42nd year of Kirigakure, it was the graduation season for Kirigakure Ninja School. It was also the graduation season for the first batch of students who had experienced the new 6-year academic system after the reform of the ninja school. Before the reform, the Hidden Mist Village, driven by the Blood Mist policy, followed the example of the Konoha village, which won the Ninja World War at that time, and implemented a 3-year school system. That is, they start school at the age of 6 and graduate at the age of 9. After the 3rd Mizukage Bing gradually transferred power to Kyoji and abolished the Blood Mist policy, Kyoji began to reform the ninja school. Moreover, after he succeeded the 4th Mizukage, he officially increased the academic system of the ninja school from 3 years to 6 years. To be honest, if the sole purpose is to train machine-like ninjas who can only kill and carry out tasks, 3 years is probably enough. However, this is not the kind of ninja that Kingji wants. In Kingji's view, the ninja school is the stage to lay the foundation for ninjas before becoming a genin, and this foundation, as the foundation of a ninja, must be laid solid. What the ninja school teaches is not only the ninja knowledge about chakra, but ideological education is what Kingji values more. Those mature Kirigakure ninjas are not easy to change, but the future flowers of Kirigakure in the ninja school have gradually become the shape of Kingji. However, Kingji would definitely not be like the 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen and other Konoha high-ranking officials who came up with a brainwashing wall of fire like wherever Konoha dances, fire will continue to burn. Even later on, it further evolved into burning others to fulfill oneself, resulting in the 4 clans, headed by the Sarutobi clan, supplemented by the Tenshin clan, the Midaman clan and the Shimura clan, which could only be called medium-level ninja clans when the village was built, becoming the 4 clans that benefited the most from Konoha village. The Sarutobi clan, the leader among them, later became the largest ninja clan in Konoha village in secret. Chapter 254. Not only that, there is another more important point, which is that Kyoji does not want the future of the Hidden Mist Village to enter the formal ninja career too early. Graduating from the ninja school means that they will officially become a genin and begin to carry out tasks for the village. If it is during wartime, they will be used as cannon fodder and consumables and sent to the battlefield. These children are the cornerstones of the future prosperity of the Hidden Mist Village. Only with a sufficient number of ninjas can more chunins, jonins, elite jonins and even cage-level ninjas be born. Stepping into the true ninja path too early would only increase their casualties for no reason. After all, what Kingji wants is not cannon fodder, but ninjas who can truly contribute to the construction of Kirigakure. This is no longer the Warring States period when children as young as 5 or 6 years old had to go to the battlefield to kill the enemy. One of the purposes of establishing the ninja village is to protect the children so that they can grow healthily and prevent them from becoming official ninjas too early and going to the battlefield to fight. Moreover, after the rapid development in recent years, the Hidden Mist Village is not short of combat power, not to mention that it is still a peaceful era. Therefore, there is no need to let these children or teenagers who are less than 10 years old enter the career of ninja too early. In the 5 years since he succeeded the 4th Mizukage, under the influence of Kyoshi, the Hidden Mist Village has gradually formed a common belief with the spiritual core of unity, sacrifice, tolerance, and dedication. These spiritual cores are not only reflected in the actions and attitudes of the ninjas, but are also deeply rooted in the hearts of every villager. They use unity as strength, sacrifice as honor, tolerance as mind, and dedication as responsibility to jointly protect the peace and tranquility of this Hidden Mist Village. Early in the morning on the day before the graduation exam of the Kirigakure Ninja Academy, in the backyard of Seiji's house, Yahiko, Nagato, and Konan were here at this moment, quietly waiting for their teacher to arrive. Yahiko, who was cheerful and lively, couldn't stand the quiet atmosphere and suddenly asked his two friends, Nagato, Konan, tell me, why did Mr. Seiji ask us to come here so early in the morning? And he specifically told us not to eat breakfast. After hearing this, Nagato raised his head, glanced at Yahiko with his lavender rin-egan, then lowered his head again without saying a word. Due to his personality, he still wanted to be a quiet handsome man. Konan rolled her eyes at Yahiko, childish. He's already grown up, and is about to graduate and become a real ninja, why is he still so impatient? The teacher must have his own ideas. As a disciple, we just need to obey him. The teacher will not harm us. Zionin replied unhappily, but his tone was very gentle. For Konan, Kyoji is the light in her heart. She does not allow anyone to question her teacher, not even such a simple inquiry, not even Yahiko, her childhood sweetheart, who has experienced countless hardships and obstacles together and grown up together. Ah! No, no. I'm just asking, just asking. Yahiko explained hurriedly, then secretly glanced at Konan, his face slightly flushed. She still spoke so gently. Just as Yahiko was frantically explaining to Konan, suddenly, a figure appeared in front of the three of them. It's Kingsley. Teacher Kingsley! Zionin exclaimed in surprise. She hadn't seen her beloved teacher for almost a month. Yahiko and Nagato also had smiles on their faces and looked at their teacher with respect. In the past month, because the graduation exams are approaching, the ninja school has been organizing students to make the final sprint of their studies, and all the 6th graders are trying their best to get good grades. After all, the graduation exam not only tests their ninja strength, but also has certain requirements for the performance of cultural courses and ideological education courses. Moreover, they are the first batch of graduates from the 6-year ninja school and they must set an example for the entire Kirigakure. It is also said that the 4th Mizukage, who is respected by the entire Kirigakure, will also attend their graduation ceremony. Therefore, the 3 little ones have been extremely busy recently, concentrating on their studies. As disciples of the Mizukage, it would be embarrassing if they could not rank among the top 3. The same thing happened to Kingsley, who was also caught up in endless busyness. Almost 5 years have passed since the end of the last Ninja World War. Recently, the atmosphere in the ninja world has become a little strange. It has become a little tense and uneasy. An ominous premonition has shrouded the entire continent, as if a new storm is about to come. The shadow of a new round of Ninja World War, like a thick dark cloud, has gradually begun to float over the ninja world. As time goes by, this haze is getting thicker and thicker, making people feel that the breath of war is getting closer. 42 years after entering Kirigakure, the major ninja villages have launched a crazy arms race. They no longer hide their strength, but openly display their military strength. This open competition has plunged the entire ninja world into a tense atmosphere, and every ninja can feel the pressure of the impending war. At this critical moment, relations between countries have become complex and delicate, and former allies have begun to suspect each other. However, there is no real alliance between ninja villages. The most reliable thing in a ninja village is always interest. There are no eternal enemies, nor eternal friends, only eternal interests. This is the truth. As for the Hidden Mist village, although it is far away from the ninja continent and isolated overseas, it is also affected by this atmosphere. After all, the Hidden Mist village now has many interests with the continent. Under the leadership and active promotion of the Ministry of Finance headed by the Elder Master, the business sector of the Hidden Mist village, which has rich marine resources, can be said to have flourished. The Ministry of Finance has formulated a series of policies and measures to encourage villagers to engage in business activities. At the same time, it has also strengthened trade with other towns in the water country, expanded market channels, and increased the circulation of goods. These measures have not only promoted the rapid growth of the Kirigakure village economy, but also improved the living standards of the villagers. In addition, the Ministry of Finance also pays attention to the development and utilization of marine resources. The output of fisheries has doubled and a large amount has been exported to other countries. At the same time, the Ministry of Finance also encourages the development of related industries such as seafood processing and tourism, further prospering the economy of the Hidden Mist village. Various trade activities have sprung up like mushrooms after rain, making the whole village full of vitality and vigor. Merchants have flocked in, bringing a variety of goods and resources, promoting rapid economic growth. Chapter 255. At this time, the Hidden Mist village had long since broken free from the financial control of the daimyo of the Land of Water and embarked on a development path that Kyoji believed was extremely correct. In Kyoji's eyes, the current Kirigakure has truly become a Kirigakure village. It is no longer like before, being controlled by the daimyo of the Land of Water and becoming more like a mercenary organization under the deformed one country one village system. The ninja village, which possesses cutting-edge power and is considered the largest violent organization in a country, is actually controlled by daimyos and nobles who are just ordinary people because of financial problems. It is a real joke in the ninja world. Imagine that those ninjas who possess extraordinary powers and can easily control the life and death of ordinary people actually have to rely on ordinary people who do not have any special abilities to provide financial support. This is as ridiculous as thinking that an elite army is commanded by a group of civilians who know nothing. Not to mention, the supreme leader of the ninja village, known as the Cage, actually needs to be appointed by the daimyo of a country. What's worse is that this situation is not an isolated case, but a common one in all ninja villages. The daimyo and nobles used their control over economic resources to firmly grasp the lifeline of the ninja village, forcing the ninja to submit to their authority. This not only restricted the freedom and development of the ninja, but also plunged the entire ninja world into a distorted power structure. The only person who had ever thought about this and tried to make changes was our old friend of the Hidden Mist village, the assistant Hokage of Konoha village, the first named Cage, Danzo Shimura. However, his verbal threats to the Fire Country daimyo, as well as the actions that he almost put into practice, were eventually stopped and halted by the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, who discovered the signs. All I can say is that the god of ninjas back then, the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, gave the ninja village era a good start. After all, in this ninja world where supernatural powers like chakra exist, ninjas who possess power should rely on their own strength and wisdom to become the masters of the ninja world, rather than being bound by those who have no power at all. Come on! Tomorrow is your graduation exam. Today, the teacher will test the results of your practice in recent months. Ching Si smiled kindly at the three little ones. He liked these three disciples with different personalities from the bottom of his heart. Upon hearing this, the three little ones' expressions changed slightly. The last time Ching Si fought against them was about 3 months ago. That time, they were badly beaten to a pulp by Ching Si. Ching Si let the three little ones use only 2 legs and 1 hand, stood in place, and easily defeated the joint attack of the 3 of them by relying on his right hand alone, and even knocked them down easily without moving. What's even more terrifying is that it was just a shadow clone of Kingxi. However, this is also because the 3 little ones have been constantly consolidating their foundation. They are already 12 years old. Although the amount of chakra has far exceeded that of ordinary ninjas of the same age, especially Nagato from the Uzumaki clan, who can become the carrier of Uchiha Madara's Rinnegan. However, in terms of their overall strength, only Nagato has barely reached the level of a Jonin, while the other 2 are at the level of a Chunin. Of course, this is also the result of Kyoji's deliberate suppression. With the foundation already laid, once Kingxi really lets go and allows them to improve themselves and enter a period of explosive growth in strength, their strength will soon begin to advance by leaps and bounds. Nagato is the most talented among the 3. However, over the years, in addition to teaching him a few simple ninjutsu and training him in the changes of various chakra attributes, CG has been constantly strengthening his body in various ways. Last year, Sanzu Amato used the corpse of the special white Zetsu Afii to carefully mix a small number of white Zetsu cells and integrate them into Nagato's body. The purpose was to make Nagato's body strong enough to fully support the pair of Rinnegan. Nagato has the blood of the Uzumaki clan and is considered to be extremely talented among the clan. At a young age, he already possesses an extremely terrifying amount of chakra, which is more than enough to bear the pair of Rinnegan from Uchiha Madara. This is exactly why Uchiha Madara chose Nagato. However, although the amount of chakra meets the requirements, Nagato's physical strength, or the life force contained in his body, is far from enough. Therefore, under Kingxi's intentional control, the current Nagato has not yet truly awakened the pair of samsara eyes with terrifying powers, and can only unleash simple repulsive force. This is also the reason why although Nagato has the samsara eyes, his strength is not that outrageous. However, once Nagato's physical strength reaches Seiji's requirements, that is, the minimum level that can bear the Rinnegan, then, with the Rinnegan, Nagato's strength will immediately enter a period of rapid growth. It may take only a few months to reach the cage level, or even a few years to reach the super cage level. The second is Konan, who has a special bloodline limit called paper release. For a ninja with a bloodline limit, as long as it is developed to a certain level, becoming a jonin can be said to be a relatively simple matter. However, Kyoshi did not ask Konan to improve her strength quickly, but to constantly consolidate her chakra foundation and improve her understanding of the changes in the nature of chakra before officially becoming a genin of the Kirigakure. In Kingsee's opinion, these are the correct paths for a bloodline ninja of the ninjutsu type to reach the level of kage, or even the level of super kage. As for the 6 paths level, forget it, it is not a realm that ordinary ninjas or bloodline ninjas can touch. In the ninja world, bloodline is a necessary prerequisite to achieve the 6 paths level. For ordinary ninjas or bloodline ninjas, the ultimate strength of the cage level is basically their ceiling. However, with the help of Kyoshi, and Kyoshi's confidence, he trained Konan into a super cage level strongman. Therefore, although Konan at this time has long surpassed ordinary jonin in terms of chakra volume, her overall strength has only reached the level of chunin. However, similar to Nagato's situation, once Konan has fully mastered the various changes in the properties of paper escape and begins to formally develop ninjutsu, her strength will naturally enter a period of rapid growth. In a short period of time, we can expect her to become a jonin or even an elite jonin. Chapter 256. The last one is Yahiko. Although Yahiko is the least talented among the 3 little ones, his talent can be said to be very high in the Hidden Mist village, at least surpassing most of the Hidden Mist ninjas. Yahiko's physique can be said to be extremely compatible with water jutsu, and he has unparalleled talent in water jutsu chakra. In Kyoshi's opinion, he is at least on the same level as the Watermelon Mountain Puffer Demon. In the entire Mist village, only the disciple of the 3rd Mizukage Bing, Hoshigaki Kisame, is slightly better than Yahiko in water jutsu talent. For water-style ninjas, the power of the technique depends on, firstly, the environment, and secondly, the amount of chakra of the practitioner. Therefore, it is obvious that for Yahiko, increasing the amount of chakra is his top priority at this stage. In general, it should not be a problem for Yahiko, who specializes in water escape, to grow into a cage-level fighter under Seiji's training. Seeing the 3 little ones with bitter expressions on their faces, Kingsea continued, tomorrow's graduation exam will basically be a sure thing for you. However, as disciples of the Mizukage, your assessment should be stricter than that of others. After hearing this, the 3 children's faces became solemn. They knew in their hearts that Ching Si, as a teacher, was right. As disciples of the 4th Mizukage, the 3 of them shoulder the responsibility and expectations of the Hidden Mist village. They cannot be satisfied with just passing the ordinary graduation exam, but must show higher strength and potential. Kingsea went on to say, so, today is your real graduation test in terms of ninja strength. I will personally conduct the assessment and give you corresponding evaluations based on your performance. If you can show due strength and quality and meet my requirements, then I will personally grant you the Kirigakure Ninja headband, and you will officially become genin. But if your performance is not satisfactory, then... Having said that, Kingsea paused, with a hint of severity in his eyes. Although he was usually gentle and amiable to his disciples, at this critical moment, as the 4th Mizukage, he had to show his majesty. The 3 little ones held their breath nervously, waiting for his next words. Then you need to go back to the training room and be retrained until you reach the standard. Kingsea said seriously. The 3 little ones nodded one after another, indicating that they understood the importance of it. At this time, several figures appeared in the training ground in the backyard of Seiji's house. The 3rd generation Mizukage Bing, with his 3 disciples Uzumaki Kana, Hoshigaki Kisame and Terumi Mei, came to watch the battle. Hoshigaki Kisame and Mei Terumi, who are of the same age, are only 1 grade younger than Sangxiao. They will graduate from the Ninja Academy in the 43rd year of Kirigakure and officially embark on the road of becoming a ninja. Of course, in order to maintain the tacit understanding between teammates, Uzumaki Kana, although much older than Hoshigaki Kisame and Mei Terumi, also became their classmate at Bing's request. It's just that she usually spends more time developing her own sealing techniques and seldom goes to class. As disciples of the 3rd Mizukage Bing, the 3 of them will most likely be asked to do this next year, which is why they came with Bing to watch the game. Moreover, as disciples of the Mizukage, the 3rd and 4th generation teams also have a healthy competitive relationship with each other. Brush. Several more figures appeared in an instant. They had received news that the other high-ranking members of the Hidden Mist who were allowed by Kingxi to come and watch the formal graduation examination of the disciples of the 4th Mizukage would of course be present as well. This was also the first official appearance of the 3 disciples of the 4th Mizukage CG in front of the top leaders of Kirigakure. Looking at the big guys who kept coming to watch the game, the 3 little ones were so nervous that they couldn't express it in words. They were really under a lot of pressure. They were very worried that their performance would bring shame to Kingxi as their teacher. Well then. Let's begin. Kingxi didn't give them any more time to hesitate. He formed the seal of opposition and decisively gave the order to start the battle. He believed that his disciples could adjust in time and, in the next battle, hand in an answer sheet that would satisfy everyone. Kyoshi did not come up with any bell-grabbing test like Konoha did. After all, grabbing the bell was just to train the mutual cooperation between teammates. It was unnecessary for the current Kirigakure ninjas and students of the ninja school. Over the years, the Kirigakure ninjas have gradually changed their original lone wolf combat style, and more Kirigakure ninjas have begun to form complementary combat teams. Moreover, teamwork is one of the compulsory courses in the ninja school, and it is also one of the most important cores of the spiritual beliefs of the Hidden Mist village. Only when one's strength reaches the point where they can crush everything can one unleash truly powerful strength by fighting as a team. This famous saying by the 4th Mizukage CG has long been deeply engraved in the hearts of the Kirigakure ninjas and students of the ninja school. The 3 little ones did not disappoint Kingxi's expectations. Although they were full of tension and pressure, they did not give up. The big guys who came to watch the battle at the edge of the training ground made them realize the importance of this graduation exam. With Yahiko's loud encouragement, the 3 little ones quickly adjusted their mentality, formed the seal of opposition towards their teacher CG, and entered combat mode. Seeing CG standing there calmly without any movement, the 3 little ones quickly changed their positions, with Konan and Nagato in the front and Yahiko standing behind them. Paper Shuriken. Konan took the lead in launching the attack. Countless papers floated out of Konan's hands and quickly changed into sharp shurikens in the air, shooting towards Kingxi quickly. Nagato beside him also quickly formed seals. Wu Chen, 2 seals were completed in an instant, and then he put his hands together. Wind style, fierce wind palm. A simple sea-level wind jutsu, in Nagato's hands, exerted a power close to that of a B level 1. The wind jutsu chakra was constantly compressed in Nagato's hands, and a violent gust of wind gushed out from his palms, like a ferocious beast, rushing out with a roar. Under the influence of the strong wind, the speed of the paper shuriken instantly increased by several levels and shot towards Kingxi. The sharp whistling sound immediately resounded throughout the venue. The people watching the fight nodded secretly. The disciple of Mizukage is still quite capable. The tacit cooperation of using wind escape to accelerate the paper shuriken and enhance its lethality was really eye-catching. Chapter 257. Kingxi also secretly gave a thumbs up to Nagato and Konan in his heart. They were worthy of being his disciples. The cooperation between them was very good. However, he had no intention of dodging. Although he did not open his pure eye or samsara eye, he could sense that Yahiko, who was standing behind Nagato and Konan and was deliberately blocked by their bodies, was waiting for him with the ninjutsu in his hand ready to be unleashed. Duan! 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 White smoke rose up, and the sound of wooden boards being pierced and hit by shurikens could be heard from it. When the smoke cleared, Kingxi's figure disappeared from the spot, replaced by a log full of paper shurikens. The substitution technique of the 3 body techniques. Kingxi used a simple substitution technique with ease to neutralize the combined attack of Nagato and Konan, and also neutralized the attack that Yahiko was hiding behind and was about to launch when he dodged. To the side of the 3 little ones, Kingxi's figure instantly appeared. He put his hands together, and activated the ninjutsu directly. Water release water crush wave. Water release water crush wave. Yahiko, who had been prepared on the side, saw CG appear on the side and used the same ninjutsu. Waves hit each other, and the 2 waves collided with each other in an instant, and suddenly, water mist spread out. Seeing this, Kingxi couldn't help but smile. After the first round of fighting, the performance of his 3 disciples was still in line with his requirements. But, how will you deal with it next? Kingxi raised his right hand high and placed his left hand across his chest, using the mist generated by the impact of the water wave to directly launch the next ninjutsu. Water release, Kirigakure Jutsu. The thick fog spread rapidly with Kingxi as the center, and in the blink of an eye it filled the entire venue, completely obstructing the view. The three little ones' expressions changed slightly, and they quickly gathered together, back to back, forming a perfect triangular defensive formation. There! Nagato's attention was highly concentrated, and the lavender samsara eye rippled in circles, quickly locking onto Kingsee's position. Yahiko and Konan received Nagato's hint, and without saying a word, they launched several explosive talismans at the location indicated by Nagato. Boom! The sound of the detonating talisman exploding resounded throughout the venue, and Nagato took the opportunity to quickly complete the hand seal. Wind escape big breakthrough. The thick fog was blown away by Nagato's wind style for a moment, but as Kingji's chakra continued to replenish, it soon covered the entire venue again. Haha! I can't let you break through my mist hiding technique so easily. Kingsee's chuckle came from the depths of the thick fog, appearing and disappearing, making it impossible for the three little ones to find out his exact location through the sound. Suddenly, there was a sound of something breaking through the fog. Countless white bone bullets came from all directions, piercing through the thick fog and shooting towards the three little ones. It was Kingsee's corpse bone vein 10-finger piercing bullets. Konan! We have to buy time for Nagato. Only he can accurately find the teacher's location. Yahiko spoke in a hurried tone while quickly forming seals with his hands. Water escape water formation wall. A large amount of water spit out of Yahiko's mouth, which continued to spiral around the three people, forming a circular water wall that wrapped the three people. The high-speed rotating water wall perfectly unloaded the powerful kinetic energy of the bone bullet that pierced through the 10 fingers, and firmly absorbed the bone bullet inside the water wall. Kingsee, who was in the fog, saw the water array wall performed by Yahiko and nodded secretly. Yahiko's talent in water escape was indeed very high. After all, what he just performed was not only the water array wall that could be quickly activated with 2 seals, but also the improved water array wall that changed the form of the technique. The common form of a water array wall is basically a directly erected water wall or a turbulent stream of water like a waterfall spit out from the mouth to resist attacks from the front. Only the water array wall improved by the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju, forms a layer of orderly rotating water wall around the caster in a circular manner. The water array wall cast by Yahiko was an improvement made by CG on this basis. It could not only rotate around the caster, but also form a continuously spiraling upward posture based on the rotation, further increasing the defense of the water array wall while also allowing it to unload force and weaken attacks during the rotation and ascent. Found it! Nagato, who was trying hard to sense Kyoji's location, finally caught the faint chakra breath that Kyoji deliberately revealed, and immediately shared Kyoji's location with Yahiko and Konan. Yahiko, who had obtained Kyoji's location, suddenly changed the seal in his hand, and the rotating water array wall instantly changed its posture under Yahiko's control. Water style, explosive water wave. With the help of the abundant water vapor in the air and the water array wall that had not yet dissipated, Yahiko easily used this water escape technique which normally required a large amount of his chakra. The mighty stream of water, like a group of well-trained soldiers, under Yahiko's exquisite control, rushed in an orderly manner towards the direction where Kyoji was pointed out by Nagato. Each drop of water seemed to have its own will and purpose, and they worked closely together to form an unstoppable force. This force was like a ferocious dragon, pouncing on Ching-Si with its fangs and claws bared, as if to devour him in one fell swoop. Yahiko, like a superb conductor, skillfully controls this powerful water flow and makes it move according to his will. Although the vision of the people watching the fight on the sidelines was obscured by the mist hiding technique performed by CG, they all used their own means to clearly see Yahiko's move. Seeing the exploding water wave being precisely controlled by Yahiko, they couldn't help but marvel at Yahiko's talent in water escape, and they also admired Seiji's vision in choosing disciples. Even Zigwashin Pufferfish Demon, who was famous for his water jutsu, and Hoshigaki Kisame, who was also extremely proficient in water jutsu under the guidance of the third Mizukage Bing, were shocked by Yahiko's small move. After all, their mastery of water jutsu was based on their terrifying chakra levels that far exceeded those of ordinary ninjas, and they could not achieve precise control while taking into account the chakra level like Yahiko. However, this also gave them an idea to further enhance the power of their water jutsu, using the huge amount of water to overwhelm the enemy, coupled with precise local control. It is hard to imagine what kind of water jutsu monster will appear in the Hidden Mist Village in the future. Even Ching-Si didn't expect that his disciple would secretly give him such a big surprise. He had never thought that Yahiko could perform water jutsu to this extent. This explosive water wave, when performed by Yahiko, completely changed its appearance, and it almost made him play to his heart's content. Chapter 258. A look of surprise flashed across Kingsley's eyes, and his body subconsciously floated up, with his feet off the ground, ready to fly into the air to dodge. However, Kingsley then suddenly remembered that this was just a graduation test for the three little ones, and it was also a test of the disciples' progress in strength. So, Kingsley steadied his body and gave up the idea of using his flying ability. After all, this was a bit unfair to his disciples. Kingsley stomped his right foot on the ground, and chakra quickly flowed into the ground from his right foot. Several earth walls instantly rose from the ground, blocking the surging water from different directions around him. Earth escape, barrier. Several earth walls rose from the ground in an instant, as if they appeared out of thin air. These earth walls quickly surrounded Ching Si, forming a solid defensive barrier. They accurately blocked the surging water from different directions around. The several streams of water formed by the blast rushed in like angry dragons, but they were unable to completely break through the defense line formed by the earth walls. Every impact caused huge splashes of water, as beautiful and spectacular as fireworks. Although the barrier is only a lower-level ninjutsu of the earth flow wall, that is, a basic earth escape technique of level D, you have to know that the one who performs this ninjutsu is CG, who has fully mastered the changes in the nature of earth escape chakra. Therefore, even though the way Yahiko manipulated the exploding water wave, which had not yet reached the level of a jonin, was eye-opening, its power was still not enough to break through the defense that CG had casually set up. Kingsley stood in the middle of the earth wall, sensing the changes around him with calm eyes. His purpose was only to give his disciples a practical graduation exam and a public display of strength in front of the top leaders of Kirigakure, so his desire to attack did not seem very strong. After all, the difference in strength is too huge. Even though Kingsley on the field at this moment only has a shadow clone with about 1/50th of his full strength. With the help of the feedback of the water flow, Yahiko quickly captured the exact position of Kiyoshi, so he immediately increased the output of chakra. The water flowed like crazy, one after another, rushing towards Kiyoshi, accurately surrounding Kiyoshi's position through the earth wall. Nagato! Yahiko called out in a low voice. Nagato instantly understood what Yahiko meant. After living together for so many years, Nagato could easily learn about Yahiko's thoughts from a change in his friend's tone of voice. Half crouching down slightly, the 3 seals of Highway SI were completed instantly, and Nagato stretched out his hands and gently touched the water that Yahiko was controlling. Lightning release, ground run. Dazzling lightning flashed suddenly, and even in the thick fog, it seemed unusually bright. Beams of lightning, transmitted by the water flow, flashed on the earth wall in the blink of an eye. These lightning beams danced like silver snakes, carrying powerful electric currents and destructive power, instantly enveloping the earth wall. Each lightning beam flashed a dazzling light. They are intertwined with the water flow, and their power is doubled. The earth wall that had stood firm under the impact of the bursting waves could no longer hold on and was shattered by the attack of the ground. Yoshi! Yahiko was overjoyed. He clasped his hands together and all the chakra in his body exploded. Without any hesitation, he detonated all the water surrounding Kingsley. Yahiko knew clearly that with his strength, he would not be able to hurt Kiyoshi even if Kiyoshi was not protected by the earth wall. So, what was there to hesitate about? Water style, water explosion technique. With the help of the large amount of chakra belonging to him contained in the water flow of the explosive wave, Yahiko launched a terrifying attack. Dense water droplets shot everywhere in a chaotic manner. The scorching heat caused by the explosion also evaporated all the water vapor near Kingsley in an instant. And this is what Yahiko ultimately wants to achieve. Vision is the most critical point in this battle. Nagato also keenly grasped this fleeting opportunity, and took this chance to use another sea-level wind style, great breakthrough, completely blowing away the thick fog on the field. Kingsley smiled approvingly at the 3 little ones and did not use the mist-hidden technique again. The clever cooperation of the 3 little ones had completely met Kingsley's expectations of their current strength level. The upright Nagato didn't care about Kiyoshi's expression. After seeing the thick fog being blown away and the scene becoming clear, he pressed his hands on the ground. Earth escape earthquake core. The ground under Kingsley's left foot was instantly raised a little. Kingsley, who was about to exchange a few words with his disciples, was caught off guard by Nagato's sudden attack. He staggered on the spot and fell to the other side. When Zionin saw this, a gleam of light suddenly flashed in his eyes. He waved his hands repeatedly, throwing out one piece of white paper after another, and then under the effect of chakra, they changed rapidly. A rain of paper cranes. The white paper kept changing during the flight, and eventually formed 1,000 tiny paper cranes, which flew at high speed towards Kingsley, who had lost his balance at that moment. Water style, black rain technique. Yahiko also reacted and directly connected with his attack. The black oil was like raindrops, and under his control, it accurately wrapped the small paper cranes. A slight smile appeared on Nagato's lips. He was indeed his little friend. He didn't even need any reminder and could immediately form a perfect cooperation with him. Fire Release Phoenix Immortal Fire Technique. Nagato launched a finishing blow. Basin-sized fireballs were continuously spit out from Nagato's mouth and caught up with the oil-covered paper crane in mid-air. Kingsley forced himself to control his body so that he would not fall to the ground completely, but when he stood up again, the 1,000 paper cranes had already flown close to him. Boom! The fireball of impatience fire, with its blazing heat and powerful impact, crashed onto the paper cranes that were wrapped in the oil and water of the black rain. In an instant, a violent explosion sounded, and flames and black oil and water intertwined with thousands of paper cranes as carriers, forming a dazzling and terrifying scene. This wave is a joint attack of the three little ones. Sea-level water jutsu combined with sea-level fire jutsu, plus the special paper jutsu bloodline limit, and the three little ones' power that exceeds the level of the ninjutsu itself. The power of these mixed attacks has exceeded the scope of B-level ninjutsu and is infinitely close to A-level. Chapter 259. The thick smoke caused by the explosion rose up and filled the air, making it almost impossible to see the surrounding situation. Suddenly, Kingsley's figure flew out diagonally from the thick smoke. Although he had defended himself in time, he was still unable to completely avoid being affected by the explosion. At this time, Ching's eye was covered with a layer of white bone shields, like a solid armor. These bone shields fit tightly to the surface of his body, protecting his body and forming an indestructible line of defense. However, under the terrifying power of the explosion, even the bone shield as hard as iron could not completely withstand the impact. Under the shock wave of the explosion, the bone shield was covered with fine cracks, as if it could break at any time. After all, this was just a shadow clone of Kingsley with only the strength of a Jonin, and Kingsley was still conscious and released a vast ocean on the three little ones. Seeing Kingsley appear, Zionin waved his hands, and countless white papers suddenly appeared and wrapped around Kingsley. Kingsley quickly adjusted his posture, landed on the ground, and then sank into the ground before the white paper controlled by Zionin arrived. Earth Release, the art of reflecting fish in the earth. Ching-si used Earth Escape to hide underground, secretly observing the three little ones, waiting for them to reveal a flaw, and then he could attack them at any time. Nagato. Yahiko and Konan looked at Nagato at the same time, signaling him to quickly sense Seiji's location. Nagato nodded to show that he understood, and immediately concentrated his mind. He looked around with his lavender Rinnegan, but did not find any trace of Kingsley. Nagato suddenly felt something was wrong. He had a premonition of Kingsley's next attack, so he quickly concentrated his chakra on his right fist and smashed it hard into the ground. However, Kingsley's actions were faster. Before Nagato's fist could land, two hands suddenly stretched out from under Yahiko and Konan's feet, grabbed their ankles respectively, and pulled them down hard. Earth Release, Heart Beheading Technique. Yahiko was pulled underground without any preparation, with only his head exposed. Konan, who had been on guard for a long time, made Kingsley's grab fail. The moment Kingsley grabbed her ankle, Konan directly activated the paper substitute that he had secretly prepared. This is not to say that Yahiko is inferior to Konan, because after several rounds of fighting, as a water-style ninja and one of the main output, Yahiko's chakra has basically been consumed, and his highly concentrated energy has made him a little slack now. On the other hand, Konan, as a support in this battle, is in much better condition than Yahiko, so she was able to avoid Kyoji's grab in time. Boom! Under Nagato's heavy punch, the ground was instantly broken into countless pieces, as if it was trampled by a ferocious beast, and the dirt flew everywhere. Each piece of debris seemed to be shattered by a powerful force, and tiny dust and sand particles flew in the air, forming a grey dust mist. Kyoji was directly knocked out from the ground by this fierce punch, while Yahiko was in a more miserable situation. Although Nagato had already retracted some of his strength at the last moment when he saw Yahiko was trapped underground, and the punch did not fall directly on Yahiko, who had no way to avoid it and was unable to defend himself in time because he was trapped, was still directly blown away by the impact of the punch. Yahiko fell on his back in a mess, with blood spurting out of his mouth. He was really unlucky as he was accidentally injured by his own people. Yahiko! Nagato and Konan exclaimed, anxiety evident in their eyes. The two men quickly rushed to Yahiko's side and helped him up. Nagato, who sensed from close range that Yahiko was not seriously injured, couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. If Yahiko was seriously injured by his punch, given his personality, he would probably feel guilty for a very long time. In fact, it's not that Yahiko was unharmed, but when Kyoji was using the mental beheading technique to pull Yahiko underground, he realized that Nagato's punch might not be able to be restrained in time. Therefore, at the same time that CG pulled Yahiko underground and trapped him, he also injected a small ball of Yangtun chakra into Yahiko's body. When Nagato and Konan came to Yahiko, the injuries Yahiko had suffered had almost been healed by the Yangtun chakra, and even the chakra that had been almost exhausted had recovered a lot. With the help of Nagato and Konan, Yahiko slowly stood up and spat out the blood foam in his mouth. Although his body was no longer seriously injured at this time, the pain from the injury was real. The three of them faced Kingsley in battle formation. They knew that this was basically the final round. After recovering from treatment, Yahiko only had the strength left for one last strike. Konan was not much worse. Although she was much better than Yahiko, her chakra level was already less than that of Yahiko and Nagato, and now she had almost no chakra left. Only Nagato, both his chakra amount and combat power, still maintain a very high level. Although it can't be said to be his peak period, he can still exert decent combat power. After Kingsley landed, he carefully sensed the status of the three little ones and thought it was about time to end the battle. The tacit cooperation between Nagato, Yahiko, and Konan in the battle, as well as the combat awareness and combat level they displayed, have fully met Kingji's requirements of them. Moreover, I believe that at this time, all the Kirigakure high-level officials who were watching the battle already had a deeper understanding of the three little ones. So, in this battle, Kingsley took the initiative to attack the three people quickly for the first time. Here they come! Yahiko shouted in a low voice, forcing himself to muster the last bit of energy. Konan and Nagato beside him also had stern expressions and were ready for battle. Brush! 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 Ching Si, who was advancing at high speed, took the lead in launching an attack. Sharp bone blades kept emerging from his shoulders, chest, and back, flashing with sharp cold light. As Ching Si continued to move, he pulled out the bone blades and threw them out, targeting the three little ones in front. As the bone ninjas attacked, Konan and Nagato reacted quickly. They jumped high, one on the left and one on the right, and nimbly avoided the rapidly attacking bone blades, leaving Yahiko standing there as if he was half a beat slow to react, and did not make any moves. Several bone blades pierced through Yahiko's body in an instant like lightning, but no blood shed from Yahiko's body. Instead, it immediately turned into a pool of clear water and fell to the ground. It turned out that Yahiko had already used his water clone without realizing it and cleverly avoided the fatal blow. Chapter 260. Seeing this, Kingsley immediately slowed down his pace and slowly stopped. He was not surprised by the water clone that Yahiko displayed. Although he let his disciples off the hook and didn't use his pure eye or samsara eye, or even his powerful perception ability, he knew clearly that Yahiko couldn't just stand there motionless and meet his attack without any support. After all, Yahiko is the most intelligent and clever one among his disciples. Yahiko's figure appeared silently on the side, and he quickly formed seals with his hands. The venue was covered with traces of water jutsu raging everywhere, and there were puddles of clear water that had not yet dissipated. This could be said to be the best fighting venue for ninjas who were proficient in water jutsu. Water style, multiple water whips. 5 water whips with a shimmering water glow condensed out of thin air, dancing in the air like nimble snakes. Then, these water whips stretched out as quickly as lightning, and under Yahiko's control, they accurately and tightly wrapped around Kiyoshi, trying to trap him. However, at the moment when the water whip bound Kingsley, Yahiko's face changed instantly. He felt an unstoppable force trying to break free from his restraints. Nagato! Konan! Yahiko shouted loudly, he could not hold on any longer. Although the improved version of the water whip used by Yahiko had strong flexibility and stickiness, it only trapped Kiyoshi for less than a breath before Kiyoshi broke free. However, this fleeting moment was enough for Nagato and Konan to launch a decent attack in this short period of time. Not to mention, the unparalleled tacit understanding between the three little ones enabled Nagato and Konan to start forming hand seals simultaneously when Yahiko took action. And when the water whip wrapped around and bound Kingxi, Nagato and Konan's ninjutsu was already ready. Therefore, the moment Kingxi broke free from the control of the water whip, Nagato's attack had already arrived in front of him. Lightning Release, Pseudo-Darkness. This time, Nagato still used Lightning Release, and it was an advanced Lightning Release ninjutsu that reached level B. An extremely dazzling and thick beam of lightning shot out from Nagato's clasped hands, carrying a devastating momentum, and rushed towards Kingxi at an astonishing speed, arriving in front of Kingxi in an instant. This ray of lightning was like a giant dragon, with its fangs and claws bared, as if it wanted to devour everything. The lightning beam struck the water splashes that were flying around Kingxi because Kingxi had forcibly broken free from the control of the water whip. With the help of the conduction of the water splashes, it quickly spread and completely enveloped Kingxi in the middle. Lightning burst out again, and with the cooperation of water jutsu, the power of lightning jutsu increased exponentially. The B-level lightning jutsu, which was already far beyond the normal power when used by Nagato, became more powerful with the help of water jutsu, approaching the level of A-level ninjutsu. And this is exactly why Nagato continued to choose to use lightning release. Ching-si used the corpse bone vein in time to protect his body, but he was still electrocuted by the lightning escape that was enhanced by the water escape, and his movements became temporarily stiff. Seeing that the lightning attack used by Nagato was perfectly connected and controlled, Yahiko, who had almost exhausted all his chakra and was exhausted, couldn't help but smile. Then he fell to the ground, gasping for breath, unable to support himself anymore. At this time, Zionan's attack followed. Paper Shuriken. It was still the same opening attack, but this time, Konan mixed a lot of detonating tags on the shuriken formed by white paper. Boom! The paper shurikens shot out at him like a violent storm, hitting Kingxi's body continuously and densely, and the detonating tags mixed in them were also continuously detonated by the impact, completely engulfing Kingxi. Deafening explosions sounded one after another, forming a powerful shock wave with Kingxi as the center, spreading out in all directions. The huge explosion raised a cloud of dust, obscuring Konan's vision and preventing her from continuing to accurately control the paper shuriken. However, for Nagato, who possessed the Rinnegan, this could not block his sight. Although the Rinnegan does not have the powerful perspective of the Byakugan, Jougan, or Samsaragon, its powerful insight into chakra still allows Nagato to clearly see Seiji's situation in the explosion through the smoke and dust and by observing the chakra. Countless detonating tags exploded at close range, or in other words, right in front of his face. Although Kingxi's body was covered with a solid bone shield formed by corpse bones, cracks gradually appeared on the bone shield due to the continuous targeted explosions, and it was about to break. At this time, Ching-si was constrained by the paralysis effect caused by thunder release and was unable to repair the bone shield in time. Of course, even if this is just a shadow clone of Kingji that maintains the strength at the level of a Jonin, if he forcibly bursts out chakra, it is not impossible for him to regain control of the body and dodge subsequent attacks. However, this battle is just a test for the disciples in their graduation exam. There is really no need to increase the difficulty for them. At the moment before Kingxi's bone shield was about to shatter, Nagato's Rinnegan accurately captured this opportunity, so Nagato attacked without hesitation. This attack would be the crucial and decisive blow. Wind Release Vacuum Jade. Nagato maintained the hand seal posture and took a deep breath. His chest puffed up and a large amount of wind chakra began to gather rapidly in Nagato's mouth. Afterwards, Nagato fired the wind chakra that he had compressed to the extreme in his mouth directly at the position where Seiji was locked. Accompanied by a sharp and piercing whistling sound, a ball of high-density wind-style chakra, no, it was like an air rocket launcher, flew rapidly towards Kingxi's position. Ching-si, who was at the center of the explosion, heard the whistling sound of the incoming vacuum jade, and a smile appeared on his face. He was worthy of being his disciple, and he did a good job. Chapter 261. In the next second, the vacuum jade directly smashed the bone shield that was already shaky and about to break into pieces. The fragments flew everywhere and fell around like raindrops. Immediately afterwards, after breaking through the defense of the bone shield, the power of the vacuum jade was not weakened at all. With amazing speed and power, it directly pierced through Kingxi's body in an instant. Boom! A burst of white smoke came out, which was still clearly visible in the grey explosion dust and was particularly eye-catching. Pa pa pa! A round of applause came from the other side, and Kingsee's figure slowly appeared in everyone's eyes. It turned out that what Kyoshi sent over was not one shadow clone, but two. While one of them was fighting against Yahiko, Nagato, and Konan, the other shadow clone used the Earth Escape, camouflage hidden technique to make its body transparent while shielding its own breath, secretly observing the battle. I didn't expect you could actually defeat my shadow clone. Kingsee's figure gradually became clearer, and then he smiled at the exhausted Yahiko and Konan, his eyes full of approval. Of course, he would definitely not miss Nagato, after all, Nagato was the absolute main output among the three little ones. Is it just the teacher's shadow clone? Nagato, the only one who was not exhausted and could still stand, muttered. The three of them tried their best, but they could only barely defeat one of Seiji's shadow clones. However, Nagato soon cheered up again. After all, Seiji was the teacher who saved them from the quagmire of the Rain Country and brought them back to the Hidden Mist Village to teach them ninjutsu knowledge with great care. Even if he was a shadow clone, it was normal for him to have such strength. Although Nagato didn't know how powerful his teacher was, from the tip of the iceberg aura that he inadvertently revealed every time he taught them, Kingsee's strength could be described as unfathomable. Moreover, according to the third Mizukage Bing who sometimes guides them on behalf of Seiji, their teacher Seiji is currently the strongest person in the ninja world. Therefore, if the three of them could defeat one of their teacher's shadow clones with their combined strength, that was enough to be proud of. Yahiko and Konan's thoughts were not as complicated as Nagato's. At this moment, they were very excited. Although they only defeated one of Seiji's shadow clones, just think about it, 3 months ago, they were helpless when facing a shadow clone of Seiji who was also a Jonin. After just 3 months of improvement, they were able to defeat their teacher's shadow clone by cooperating with each other. How could they not be happy? Third Generation Master. Kingsea turned to the third generation Mizukage Bing who was watching the battle from a distance and said, "What do you think of their performance?" Hehe. The third Mizukage Bing smiled helplessly. He knew that Kingsea was showing off to him, but he was also happy to see it happen. After all, these were the future of the Hidden Mist Village. Moreover, he also had 3 disciples that made him extremely satisfied. After everyone praised the performance of the 3 little ones, the third Mizukage Bing suddenly changed the topic, the 4th Hokage. Can we consider letting them become Chunin directly? After all, with the strength shown by these 3, they can directly form a qualified Chunin team. After hearing the suggestion from the third Mizukage Bing, Kingsea was silent for a moment, then shook his head. Let's start with Genin. As a disciple of the Mizukage, they already enjoy many privileges. Moreover, the Genin stage is also a necessary part of their growth. Bing pondered for a moment, nodded slightly, and agreed with Kingsea's statement. Indeed, there is no order without rules. This is the basic principle for the prosperity of a village. Moreover, the current Kirigakure is no longer the chaotic and disorderly era when he was the master and strength was supreme. In the Hidden Mist Village during the era of the 4th Mizukage, under the outstanding leadership of Kiyoshi, everything had to be done according to the rules without any exceptions. The establishment of this order not only helped to maintain the stability and harmony of the village, but also made the Hidden Mist Village radiate endless vitality and vigor. Well, that's it. Ching Si made the final decision, bringing the test to an end, then turned to the 3 little ones behind him and said, "When you pass all the exams tomorrow, I will personally grant you the Kirigakure Forward Protector." The next day, the Kirigakure Ninja School held its graduation exam as scheduled. The first batch of students graduating from the 6-year ninja school were about to embark on their own ninja journey. The ninjas were very efficient. They had just conducted written exams for various subjects and practical tests in the morning, and then around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, all the results had been counted. In the Mizukage's office, Chino Kizuna handed the compiled transcript sent from the ninja school to Seiji. Ching Si took the report card and quickly scanned it. As expected, without any surprise, the scores of his 3 disciples were far ahead of the other students. Nagato is first, Yahiko is second, and Konan is third. In Kiyoshi's opinion, there would be no problem for Nagato to get the first place, but Kiyoshi originally thought that Konan would get the second place. Of course, this was not because Kiyoshi was partial, but compared to Yahiko, Konan had always been better than Yahiko except in actual combat results. However, this time Yahiko performed exceptionally well and successfully surpassed Konan to take the second place among this year's ninja school graduates. 4 p.m. Kiyoshi attended the graduation ceremony of the ninja school and delivered an important speech to the future flowers of Kirigakure, congratulating them on successfully completing their 6 years of studies and officially becoming a glorious Kirigakure genin and embarking on the path of a true ninja. Afterwards, Kingxi personally presented the forehead protectors representing the Kirigakure ninja to the top 3 graduates of this year, who were his 3 disciples. Tomorrow morning, the class division of this year's graduates will be officially announced. Regardless of whether they are combat ninjas, medical ninjas, perception ninjas, seal ninjas, barrier ninjas, or some special talents specially trained, they must first go through the genin stage. Chapter 262. After the graduation ceremony, CG came to the Otsutsuki clan's territory and met the Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara couple. Master Patriarch. The couple respectfully welcomed Kingxi into the house. However, although he is called the clan leader, there are actually only 3 people in the Otsutsuki clan in the Hidden Mist village, not counting Kiyoshi, and one of them is currently in Otsutsuki Gara's belly. Tengzin. Kingxi said calmly after sitting down, I plan to let you serve as the leader of my 3 disciples. During this period, because Otsutsuki Tenshin's wife Otsutsuki Kara was pregnant, he basically handed over the affairs of the police department to the deputy minister, and he concentrated on taking care of his wife at home. Although Otsutsuki Kara is also a ninja with the strength of a cage and does not need his care, this is the hope of the Otsutsuki clan to continue its bloodline, so it is never too careful. Although he often had to leave the village to carry out missions after becoming a team leader, Otsutsuki Tenshin did not hesitate at all and agreed directly. However, Kiyoshige let him serve as the leading jonin of his disciples because he thought highly of him, and this also indirectly showed Kiyoshige's trust in him. Therefore, Otsutsuki Tenshin had no reason to refuse, and could not refuse. Besides, he is familiar with Nagato, Yahiko, and Konan, so it would be worry-free for him to serve as the leader of these 3 people. Very good. After receiving Otsutsuki Tenshin's reply, Kingxi nodded with satisfaction, then I'll leave these 3 to you. Yes. I will take good care of them. Otsutsuki Tenshin responded solemnly. Kingxi smiled, then changed the topic and looked at Otsutsuki Gara. Next, it's time to get down to business. If the sole purpose was to arrange for Otsutsuki Tenshin to be the team leader, Kiyoshi wouldn't have to come here in person. His real purpose of coming here today was to check the condition of Otsutsuki Gara's fetus. Since following him, Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara have been working diligently for him in the Hidden Mist village with great diligence and conscientiousness. Showing appropriate concern for subordinates is Kingxi's daily way of managing people. Not to mention that Kiyoshi is the nominal head of the Otsutsuki clan, and these 2 can be considered as his fellow clansmen. After all, in the current ninja world, there are only 3 of them who can be called Otsutsuki. A beautiful sky blue flashed in Kingxi's eyes, and Kingxi immediately opened his samsara eye. At the same time, his perception enveloped Otsutsuki Gara, and he carefully observed the condition of the fetus. The Otsutsuki clan is quite special. Although Otsutsuki Gara is not yet a true Otsutsuki clan member, the time it takes to gestate a fetus is much longer than that of people in the ninja world. This is why CG did not come here until today. Otherwise, if he came earlier, the fetus would not have been formed yet, and even if there were any problems, they might not have been discovered in time. It has been almost 7 or 8 months since Otsutsuki Kara became pregnant. According to common sense, the fetus in her belly should have already taken shape and basically developed completely. However, in Kingxi's perception, this newborn of Otsutsuki was still developing, and it would probably take at least another year to nurture. Moreover, Kingxi could sense that the blood of this gestating Otsutsuki was extremely pure, not inferior to Kingxi's before he absorbed the giant Rinnegan, and even in the fetal stage, it could faintly resonate with the aura emitted by his Rinnegan. Well, based on the current situation, it is very likely that in the later stages, Otsutsuki Gara will not be able to provide enough energy for the newborn Otsutsuki to continue to develop and grow. In other words, this child is likely to suck Otsutsuki Gara dry. Kingxi frowned slightly. This situation was really not easy to solve. Chief. Is there a problem? When Otsutsuki Garo saw Kingxi frowning, his heartbeat slowed down and he asked quickly. Kingxi stopped sensing and closed his samsara eye. After organizing his words, he said, well, now that I've discovered it, it's not a bad thing. Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara were stunned and looked at Kiyoshi in confusion. They didn't quite understand what Kiyoshi meant. To put it simply, your child is very likely to have a reversion of his ancestral bloodline. In the fetal stage, the richness of his Otsutsuki bloodline is already far greater than yours. CG explained. After hearing this, Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara were instantly filled with ecstasy, but then they became a little confused. Isn't this a good thing? However, given Jiaoyuo's physical condition, it may not be enough to provide the child with enough energy to continue to develop. If it develops normally, either she will be forced to give birth at the cost of her life, or the child will be born with some unknown congenital defects. Kingxi continued to explain. The joy on Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara's faces froze in an instant, and soon turned into panic. Chief. Otsutsuki Tenshin stood up instantly and bowed deeply to Kiyoshi. He was so concerned that he forced himself to calm down. Since Kiyoshi said this was not a bad thing, it meant that he must have a solution. Kingxi waved at Otsutsuki Tenshin, then gently patted the shoulder of Otsutsuki Gara, who had not yet come to his senses. A ray of yang release chakra entered Otsutsuki Gara's body and went towards the position of the fetus in her belly. Don't worry. Since we found it in time, there won't be any impact. Kingxi gave Otsutsuki Tenshin and Otsutsuki Gara a timely reassurance, his tone full of strong confidence. With me here, there won't be any problems. In a short period of time, Kingxi has come up with a solution that can barely be considered a solution. Although it cannot solve the problem once and for all, at least there will definitely be no bad consequences. As long as he regularly provides life energy to the conceived Otsutsuki, that is, the Yang Tun chakra activated to the extreme, he can basically ensure the normal development of the fetus while also saving Otsutsuki Gara's life. After the Yang release chakra entered Otsutsuki Gara's body, it quickly turned into pure life energy full of vitality and vigor, and was absorbed by the fetus, nourishing the growth of this new Otsutsuki like spring rain moistening the earth. Otsutsuki Gara immediately felt the changes in his body, and the burden on his body was suddenly reduced a lot. After truly feeling the effect of the Yang release chakra, Otsutsuki Gara breathed a sigh of relief. This way, her child should be fine. Otsutsuki Tonari is a member of the same clan recognized by Otsutsuki Urashiki. He is a person whose bloodline has completely regressed to his ancestral home. However, he was born without eyes. I personally guess that his mother did not have enough life energy when she was pregnant, and was unable to give birth to the most important eyes for an Otsutsuki whose bloodline has completely regressed to his ancestral home. Chapter 263. Have you chosen a name for the child? After solving Otsutsuki Gara's problem, Kingxi casually asked the two of them. Yes. Chief. Otsutsuki Tenshin, whose problem had been solved, was no longer anxious and responded respectfully, I have confirmed with my Byakugan that it is a boy. This child carries the hope of the continuation of the bloodline of our Otsutsuki clan and Garo, and I also hope that when he grows up, he can be like us and continue to serve you. Therefore, after discussing it with my husband and I, we named him Tonari. Otsutsuki Tonari. Otsutsuki Tonari. Nice name. CG smiled. Just now, his attention was focused on sensing the blood condition of the fetus, and he did not pay attention to the gender of the child. If Otsutsuki Tenshin had not mentioned it, he would have subconsciously ignored this point. At the same time, at the other side of the distant starry sky, in the vast space, a man was floating quietly, his skin was strangely pale, as if he did not belong to this world. He was wearing the pure white clothing that was the symbol of the Otsutsuki clan, and looked very elegant. On his back was a fish basket that emitted a mysterious red glow, and in his hand was a fishing rod that also emitted a red glow. The man gazed calmly into the distance, his eyes falling on a slowly spinning planet that was gradually losing its vitality. The planet had begun to die, and its once vibrant surface was now dull and lifeless. Tisk. Inferior planet. Inferior chakra fruit. It's totally useless. The man muttered to himself, with a hint of depth flashing in his pure white eyes. The man was tall, with a high ponytail, and his light blue hair swayed freely without wind. He had no eyebrows, but 2 dots between his eyebrows, and 2 horns in the shape of a horn on his forehead. The one who accepted the mission from within the Otsutsuki clan to find the whereabouts of Otsutsuki Ishiki and Otsutsuki Kagaya, besides Otsutsuki Momoshiki and Otsutsuki Kinshiki, was Otsutsuki Urashiki. Finally, we have successfully recovered the chakra fruit. Otsutsuki Urashiki exclaimed, then, next, let's go find Ishiki and Kagaya. I remember, they are in this direction. Otsutsuki Urashiki recalled the direction of Otsutsuki Kagaya's aura that he sensed about 6 years ago. His eyes instantly switched from the Byakugan to the red Megatama Samsara Eye, and then a pitch-black space portal slowly emerged in front of him. It was the ability born after the Otsutsuki clan achieved the bloodline network, Yozen Hirasaka. Don't tell Zyotao for now. I'll go and investigate first. Otsutsuki Urashiki whispered, then stepped into the space portal and disappeared. Otsutsuki Urashiki, who acted alone, of course also sensed the aura that erupted when Otsutsuki Kagaya used the bloodline network to break the seal. However, he also made the same choice as Otsutsuki Momoshiki. After all, the distance between the star field where Otsutsuki Urashiki is located and the planet where the ninja world is located is much closer than that between Otsutsuki Momoshiki and Otsutsuki Kinshiki. According to the speed at which the Otsutsuki clan crosses the starry sky, it will take less than 2 years to arrive. Moreover, when Otsutsuki Urashiki contacted his clan a while ago, he learned that there was a small problem with the mission of recovering chakra fruits that Otsutsuki Momoshiki and Otsutsuki Kinshiki were in charge of. Therefore, at this moment, they were patiently waiting quietly for the chakra fruit to mature, and had not yet had time to set out to explore the ninja world. Therefore, the Golden Grape Trio who were supposed to go to the ninja world together, because of their own little thoughts, and the presence of Otsutsuki Kagaya who was exposed as if by coincidence, only Otsutsuki Urashiki came this time. 2 months later. In the Mizuki's office, the shadow clone left behind by Seiji was concentrating on handling government affairs. Meanwhile, his real body was currently in the strange space of the Otsutsuki ruins, practicing pupil techniques. When fighting with Uchihamadara, Kyoshi discovered a problem. Although he could switch between the pure eye and the samsara eye seamlessly and smoothly, at certain times, he still felt somewhat restricted and inconvenient. For example, he cannot use the ability of the pure eye and the samsara eye at the same time, nor can he use the ability of the pure eye and the samsara eye at the same time. If the abilities of the pure eye and the samsara eye can be used at the same time without switching, it would be a great enhancement to King C's combat power. Moreover, Kyoshi knew clearly that this could be done. From Otsutsuki Ishiki's memory, Kyoshi learned that in the Otsutsuki clan, there were many members who could use the related abilities of the Byakugan at the same time even after their eyes had switched from the Byakugan to the Rinnegan. The Otsutsuki clan's Rinnegan is obtained by absorbing the chakra fruit from the 10-tailed divine tree. It is not of the same category as their own Byakugan, nor does it have any subordinate relationship with them. Even so, the Otsutsuki clan can still use the Byakugan while in the state of Rinnegan. Then there should be no problem between the samsara eye and the pure eye. After all, King C's samsara eye evolved from the pure eye. Isn't it normal that higher level eyes can use the abilities of lower level eyes? Just imagine what kind of scene it would be like when you use the eye technique Takamaji Ehara to release the great box or the black stick to attack, while at the same time launching the Tianyan of all things to suck the opponent to a designated location or cut off his or her action to dodge. Or, in close combat, use the eye technique Shayana-biguna to shrink and dodge, and then get close to the opponent and launch a Shinra Tensei. What kind of scene would that be? Although Seiji did not encounter any problems when fighting with Uchihamadara, it was only because his strength at that time was superior to that of the old Uchihamadara who did not have the Rinnegan. In the battle, when switching between the pure eye and the samsara eye and using different abilities, even if Uchihamadara could detect it, he would not be able to seize it in time and make effective use of it or respond to it. However, if he were to fight an enemy of equal strength, or one whose strength level was higher than Kyoshi's, such as the Otsutsuki clan from the Starry Sky who he would likely face in the future, then the brief gap between switching abilities could result in a huge mistake in the outcome of the battle. Therefore, in recent years, Seiji has been committed to integrating the abilities of the two eye techniques, striving to be able to use the eye techniques Takamagahara and Shinobikon that originally required the opening of the pure eye when opening the samsara eye as soon as possible. Chapter 264. The Mizuki's secretary Chino Hoshimi and the Mizuki's assistant Yagura Karitachi walked in together at this time. Yagura was holding an opened letter in his hand. Lord Mizuki. Chino Kizuna said softly, interrupting the shadow clone Seiji who was working hard. The shadow clone Kingsi raised his head and saw that it was China and Yagura, and a smile appeared on his face. A letter from Danzo Shimura of Konoha village. Yagura raised the letter in his hand and explained, while handing the letter to Seiji, he is seeking cooperation with our Kirigakure again, but this time, his target is a bit tricky. Our old friend Danzo. Kingsi sighed, with a slight curve at the corner of his mouth, let me see who he is going to deal with this time. Over the years, Danzo Shimura has become the most loyal friend of the Hidden Mist Village. This Amaran of Shinobi, Konoha's first named Kage, and the leader of the route, has been constantly purging dissidents under the banner of For Konoha, and is going further and further on the path of weakening Konoha village's strength and becoming a troublemaker. I can only say, there are only wrong names, but no wrong nicknames. The name of Guo Ying is well deserved. The Hidden Mist Village also made a lot of money through cooperation with its old friend Danzo Shimura. There is an upper limit to the total establishment of the route. Although Danzo Shimura is secretly training additional personnel, he cannot go too far. After all, the main reason for the establishment of the route is to train and supply talents for the Anbu. The third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen could turn a blind eye to Shimura Danzo's occasional smuggling of goods, that is to say, there would be no problem if the route exceeded the establishment by a part, but if it exceeded by too much, then the extra ninjas would definitely not fall into his hands. The smart Danzo Shimura thought for a moment and immediately figured out the answer. Most of the funds originally used to train Anbu ninjas and build and develop the route were intercepted and used as rewards for hiring Kirigakure ninjas to kill their own people. First, he can completely clear himself of suspicion without leaving any excuse for being criticized by others. Although he is not afraid of this, it will still be itchy if there are too many lice, right? Secondly, the money spent on hiring Kirigakure ninjas is much more cost-effective than replenishing and training them after losing manpower, especially for the encirclement and killing of lone ninjas of the Uchiha clan. Unless he sends out an overwhelming number of root ninjas in one fell swoop, several of them will definitely be replaced by the dying counterattack of the Uchiha ninjas. Moreover, mobilizing a large number of root ninjas will inevitably be discovered by the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. Although, Sarutobi Hiruzen probably wanted him to do so in his heart, this kind of thing must not be discovered. After all, the action of eliminating the Uchiha clan cannot be made public for the Hokage. Thirdly, he can also complete the assigned tasks while maintaining the overall strength of his route. He can even train some new ninjas from time to time, allowing himself to get one step closer to the position of Hokage. Finally, he can also use this opportunity to continuously collect intelligence on the Kirigakure ninjas and prepare intelligence reserves for possible future wars. This behavior of using the village funds and donating one's own money is simply killing two birds with one stone. After all, everything is for Konoha. Therefore, part of the military funds allocated by the Fire Nation daimyo for Konoha village was transferred to the route by the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, and then transferred again, a large part of which was secretly misappropriated by Danzo Shimura and used as a bargaining chip for cooperation with the Hidden Mist Village. Of course, Kirigakure and Kyoji were happy about this. Although Kirigakure had sufficient funds after years of continuous development, who would complain about having too little money? Moreover, not only can you get paid, but you can also continuously weaken the future number one enemy, Konoha village, and provide your own mid and high-end combat forces with an opportunity for a life and death battle from time to time. Where else can you find such a good thing? And why didn't Danzo Shimura receive ninjutsu as reward? That's because the Hidden Mist Village has no shortage of ordinary ninjutsu or secret techniques. Only those ninjutsu sealed in the Book of Seals can be valued by the Hidden Mist Village and Cg, especially the impure world reincarnation that can summon the deceased from the Pure Land, which is what Cg needs. But it is obvious that no matter how outrageous Danzo Shimura is, it is impossible for him to trade those forbidden techniques with the Hidden Mist Village at this stage. This still requires waiting for the right time. As for Shimura Danzo's other little thoughts, the Hidden Mist Village and Cg obviously don't care. After all, the strength is there. In the ninja world, fists are the most powerful after all. Kingxi raised his hand to take the letter, quickly glanced through it, and his pupils couldn't help but shrink slightly. Good guy, Kingxi exclaimed in his heart, good guy. What did he see? Danzo Shimura actually wants the Hidden Mist Village to send ninjas to prevent the Konoha ninjas from successfully completing a mission, and this mission is to be carried out by Konoha White Fang Hotaki Sakumo. Next month, Hotaki Sakumo will lead his team to the Land of Hot Springs to carry out a mission defined as top secret. Danzo Shimura will certainly not reveal the details of the mission, but what the Hidden Mist Village has to do is to send enough ninjas to intercept and kill Hotaki Sakumo's entire team on the way back to the Land of Fire after completing the mission. Kingxi couldn't help but be speechless. This Shimura Danzo really did all kinds of bad things. You know, that is the Konoha White Fang who possesses the strength of a Kage and is considered a strong man among the Kages. He was even granted the title of Hokage Half-Sleeves by the daimyo of the Land of Fire. Shimura Danzo, how dare he? However, this is a great thing for the Hidden Mist Village. Danzo Shimura is worthy of his reputation as a loyal friend of the Hidden Mist Village. If he can really kill Hitaki Sakumo, the overall strength of Konoha village can be said to have dropped drastically. Chapter 265. So, King C decided to agree without much thought. After all, this would be 100 benefits for the Hidden Mist Village. No matter from which angle you look at it, the Hidden Mist Village will definitely be the winner. The only thing to note is that the ninjas sent over cannot be killed by Hitaki Sakumo. After all, they are the Konoha White Fang who enjoy countless reputations in the ninja world and have a great reputation. If a few of them were killed in counterattack, it would be a complete loss. Yakura. Write a reply to Danzo Shimura. We in Kirigakure have taken over this matter. Ask him to provide the specific time and location. CG spoke calmly and stated his decision. Okay. Lord Mizukage. Yagura nodded in response, then turned and left to reply to Danzo Shimura. Chino. Go and ask Tenshin to come over. Their team has completed the mission and returned to the village. King C continued immediately. He planned to let Otsutsuki Tenshin take his 3 disciples to find someone. The potential impact of taking action against Hitaki Sakumo this time would be huge, therefore, CG did not want the Kirigakure ninjas to be the main force in the siege. After all, most of the cage-level combat forces of the Kirigakure village were already known to all parties in the ninja world, and except for Otsutsuki Tenshin and the pregnant Otsutsuki Gara, the other cage-level ninjas were all ninjutsu-type ninjas. You know, a cage-level strongman like Hitaki Sakumo, who is extremely fast and good at swordsmanship and lightning release ninjutsu, is extremely powerful and can restrain those cage-level people from the Hidden Mist Village. Not to mention, under Hitaki Sakumo's White Fang dagger, there are more than one dead soul of cage-level strongmen. Therefore, in order to successfully kill Hitaki Sakumo, a master who is considered to be one of the most powerful among the cage-level masters, it would probably require at least 5 cage-level masters to act at the same time. Moreover, if Hitaki Sakumo manages to escape, it basically means that the war between Kirigakure and Konoha has broken out. After all, Hitaki Sakumo is one of the symbols of Konoha. Of course war can break out, and the Hidden Mist Village has been quietly developing and preparing for war, but the war must not break out from the Hidden Mist Village first. Entering a state of war prematurely would only consume the overall strength of the Hidden Mist Village, which would not be conducive to King C's subsequent plans. King C can take care of a few people, but not everyone. His subordinates were all consumed in the war. Who will help King C in the future? No matter how strong King C is, he cannot rule the entire ninja world single-handedly. After all, he wants to develop the ninja world into an important nursery for sustainable tree planting. The ideal situation, of course, would be to let the 4 major ninja villages on the ninja continent fight each other to the point of bloodshed, until their combat power and resources were almost exhausted. Finally, the Hidden Mist Village would come in to clean up the mess and eventually take over the entire ninja continent. Build high walls, store up food, and slowly become king. Ching Si is well aware of the true meaning of these 9 words from his previous life. Of course, if King C takes action personally, then capturing a small Hitaki Sakumo will be easy. However, King C is at a critical juncture at this time, and his body is doing its best to integrate the abilities of the Pure Eye and the Samsara Eye. King C already had a premonition that he was not far away from achieving the ability to use the Pure Eye while activating the Samsara Eye. Moreover, if he, the Mizukage, had to personally handle everything, why did he train so many subordinates? Why did he even need the Hidden Mist Village? Another important point is that the Hidden Mist Village is not fully prepared at the moment. After removing an extraordinary figure like Kiyoshi, its overall strength cannot support a confrontation with other ninja villages at the same time. Therefore, the Hidden Mist Village still needs to prepare for some more time and accumulate more strength. It would be best to wait until King C completes his last Rinnegan movement and officially enters the 6 Paths level. Soon, after receiving the notice, Otsutsuki Tenshin, together with Nagato, Yahiko, and Konan, came to the Mizukage's office. Lord Mizukage. Otsutsuki Tenshin greeted respectfully. Teacher CG. Do you have any important task to assign to us? Yahiko, who followed Otsutsuki Tenshin into the Mizukage's office, started shouting loudly as soon as he came in. This was his first time entering the Mizukage's office after graduating from the Ninja Academy and officially becoming a genin. Nagato and Konan followed Yahiko, but they did not speak after entering the Mizukage's office. Instead, they waited quietly by the side, looking at their teacher Cg with admiration. But teacher, you're really something. If you ask me, with our strength, you should have been allowed to participate in some important tasks a long time ago. Yahiko complained. Hurry up and tell me, teacher. If you have any tasks, just come to me. I, Yahiko, will definitely lead the team to complete them. Yahiko was still outputting. Yahiko. How can you be so rude to the teacher? Zionan's face suddenly darkened at the back. She couldn't bear to listen anymore. Oh my god, Yahiko, are you getting too proud? Why don't you go to heaven? You are still leading the team and calling yourself Uncle Yahiko. You don't take everyone present here seriously. Yahiko, who was shouting wildly, suddenly felt a chill when he heard Konan's cry, as if his neck was tightly pinched by an invisible hand, and he stopped talking in an instant. I was wrong. Yahiko immediately apologized as if by reflex, but then he turned his head away again and returned to his old ways, muttering to himself, but next time I dare to. What did you say? Zionan's originally curved light purple eyebrows were now raised, and her beautiful amber eyes narrowed slightly. She seemed to have heard what Yahiko said again. Nothing, nothing. Nothing. Yahiko smiled awkwardly, and this time he completely shut up. He still listened to Konan very much. Kyoji glanced at Yahiko unhappily. This person was just his disciple. If anyone else dared to speak to him in such a tone, he would have pinned them down and given them a taste of the Mizuki's iron fist. However, Kingxi did not mind this. He knew that this was a unique way for Yahiko to express his closeness to him. It could also be regarded as a kind of innocent heart of Yahiko. Moreover, although Yahiko has graduated from the ninja school and officially become a Kirigakure ninja, in Kyoji's eyes, he is still the child he rescued in the Rain Country and brought back to the Kirigakure village. Of course, the same goes for Nagato and Konan. Then, Kingxi shifted his gaze to Konan and looked at her with amusement. Although Konan had a very gentle personality, she seemed to be the nemesis of Yahiko. Only Konan could control Yahiko, who had a very eccentric personality. Okay. Let's get down to business. Ching Si stopped smiling and said to the others seriously, there is indeed a mission for you to carry out. It's an A-level mission. However, it may be upgraded to S-level at any time depending on the specific situation. When Yahiko heard that it was an A-level mission, his eyes lit up instantly. After these 2 months, his strength was already infinitely close to that of a Jonin. He really wanted to complete a grand and high-end mission to test his own strength. And when he heard that this mission could be upgraded to an S-level mission, his eyes became even hotter, as if burning with a flame. The passion and desire in his eyes almost overflowed from his eye sockets, making it impossible to ignore his inner excitement and anticipation. Yahiko opened his mouth and was about to say something, but suddenly, out of the corner of his eye he caught a glimpse of Konan giving him a death stare, so he immediately controlled himself with great willpower and swallowed back the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Yahiko turned his head to look at Konan, but saw Konan smiling at him gently, as if the death stare just now was not from her, but just an illusion of Yahiko. Yahiko gave Konan an awkward smile, touched the back of his head unconsciously, and then smiled foolishly. Konan is really so gentle. Kingxi saw the little actions between the two in private, but he pretended not to see it and did not show any expression on his face. However, Kingxi smiled gently in his heart. What a pair of happy enemies. Then, he continued, I issued this mission as the Mizu Cage. It's a designated mission. The mission requires you to find a cage-level warrior and establish a hiring relationship with him. Your team has the Byakugan and the Samsara Eye, so it shouldn't be difficult for you to find a specific person. However, during the mission, you may fight with the opponent, so the mission level is set as A or even S. Otsutsuki Tenshin nodded, indicating to Cg that he understood. The mission time is set to be 1 month, and the target is Kakuzu, the S-rank rebel ninja from Kirigakure village, the immortal ninja who is said to be as long-lived as the heaven and earth. After we find him, it would be best if we can reach an agreement with him, but if we can't. Having said that, Cg picked up the 2 prepared scrolls from the table and handed them to Otsutsuki Tenshin and Konan respectively. If we can't come to an agreement through negotiation, then let's use physical persuasion. The scroll in Tenshin's hand contains the details of the mission and the information collected by the Anbu about Kakuzu and his recent locations. The scroll in Konan's hand contains one of my shadow clones, so you can summon me when the time comes. Kyoji explained. To be honest, CG really didn't think that Otsutsuki Tenshin could suppress Kakuzu. Although Otsutsuki Tenshin was a cage-level warrior and an Otsutsuki, this Otsutsuki was quite a bit watered down. His attack methods were mostly based on melee physical skills, and he basically had no means of long-range attack. Therefore, Otsutsuki Tenshin had no advantage against a ninja like Kakuzu, who was a ninjutsu turret, and would easily be kite-fed by Kakuzu. Moreover, although Kakuzu only claimed to be as old as the heaven and earth, it is undeniable that he did live a very long time, which means that he had extremely rich combat experience. The difference between Otsutsuki Tenshin and him was like the difference between a child and an adult. Oh, by the way, Tenshin, before you leave, go find the third Hokage. He fought with Kakuzu a few years ago. Kingxi suddenly remembered something and added. 10 days later, in the Kingdom of Soup. Coincidentally, the place where Hotaki Sakumo will carry out his mission later is within the borders of the land of Yuno, and Kakuzu happens to be here as well. The information about Kakuzu's location was provided by the Anbu, which of course benefited from the intelligence line of the underground gold exchange. If it was to look for other people, it might take some time to collect relevant information, but for Kakuzu, it didn't need that at all. Kakuzu's whereabouts are basically transparent in the underground gold exchange. After all, he is a bounty hunter registered with the underground gold exchange, and the strongest bounty hunter. 5 days ago, Kakuzu made a big profit in the Kingdom of Hot Springs, and showed up in one of the underground gold exchange houses in the Kingdom of Hot Springs, using several corpses to exchange for a huge sum of 900 million taels. So, after receiving the information, Otsutsuki Tenshin immediately took Nagato, Yahiko, and Konan and rushed to the land of Hot Springs. Hot Spring Country, Hot Spring Town. Otsutsuki Tenshin and the 3 little ones were resting in the town at this time, while waiting for the latest information about Kakuzu's location from the underground gold exchange. After analyzing Kakuzu's intelligence, the 4 people unanimously concluded that Kakuzu must still be in the land of Hot Springs and had not left. After all, with his character, wherever he passed by, he would kill all the ordinary ninjas on the wanted list nearby in exchange for the bounty. The information transmitted by the underground gold exchange showed that a lot of wandering ninjas who were wanted and had bounties placed on their heads had recently poured into the Kingdom of Hot Springs. Therefore, how could Kakuzu, who loves money like his life and believes that only money will not betray him, let go of these movable silver coins? Therefore, there is a high probability that Kakuzu is still here. In the evening, a tall figure was slowly approaching the hot spring town. The man was wearing a mask as black as ink, which completely covered the lower half of his face, making it impossible for others to see his true appearance. However, the 2 eyes that appeared above the mask were flashing a strange green light, like evil spirits from the abyss of hell. These green eyes were like a deep pool of water, revealing a gloomy aura that made everyone who looked at them shudder. What is even more eye-catching is that he is wearing a forehead guard with the logo of Kirigakure village on it, but there is a deep scratch in the center of the forehead guard. Happy National Day to everyone! Chapter 266. This person is none other than the strongest bounty hunter, the S-rank rebel ninja from Kirigakure who once fought against the god of ninjas, the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, and the immortal ninja Kakuzu, who is known as the one who lives as long as the heaven and earth. In the hot spring town, Nagato raised his head as if he sensed something and looked towards the west of the town in confusion. He seemed to sense some strange chakra aura just now, but it disappeared quickly. Captain Tenshin. Soon, Nagato found Otsutsuki Tenshin. He firmly believed that his perception just now was not an illusion. Nagato described the fleeting feeling of chakra to Otsutsuki Tenshin, who nodded and agreed with Nagato's statement. He also felt that Nagato should not have made a mistake in his perception. After all, although Nagato did not have the surname Uzumaki, it was undeniable that he was a member of the Uzumaki clan, and he possessed the legendary Rinnegan. White eyes. Blue veins suddenly popped up at the corners of Otsutsuki Tenshin's eyes, like twisting little snakes, slowly spreading to both sides of his cheeks. He looked very hideous and weird, but there was also a strange kind of harmonious beauty. Otsutsuki Tenshin's pure white eyes became extremely sharp, and his vision penetrated all obstacles and extended into the distance with himself as the center. Not far from the entrance of the town, Otsutsuki Tenshin soon discovered a man who was walking slowly towards the town without any intention of concealing himself. He was holding a corpse in his hand. The bright and powerful chakra fluctuations were extremely dazzling in the sight of the Byakugan. With the information provided by the Anbu, Otsutsuki Tenshin had already known about Kakuzu's chakra aura. Therefore, he instantly confirmed that this man with huge chakra was the Kakuzu they were looking for. Found it! It's Kakuzu! Otsutsuki Tenshin whispered, with a gleam of light in his Byakugan eyes. After searching for it everywhere, the target actually showed up at his doorstep. Nagato's perception is indeed powerful, worthy of being a member of the Uzumaki clan, worthy of being the Samsara Eye. At the same time, Kakuzu, who was approaching the town, frowned, and a cold light flashed in his green eyes. He vaguely sensed that someone seemed to be secretly watching him, but out of confidence in his own strength, he did not change his original destination, but secretly became more vigilant. After all, in his many years of career as a bounty hunter, after each hunt, when he went to the underground gold exchange to exchange the bounty, there would always be a few short-sighted desperados who wanted to take shortcuts and rob the robbers and set their sights on him. However, he is the strongest bounty hunter Kakuzu, and he is also a man who once fought with the god of ninja and escaped unscathed. Not just any Tom, Dick, or Harry can come and try to scam him. Humph! You are another rogue who came from nowhere, and you dare to spy on me, Kakuzu. I hope you have enough bounty on the bounty list, so that I will feel good when I kill you later. However, this time, Kakuzu, who was usually cautious, did not know what was waiting for him. Hot Spring Town, Underground Gold Exchange. Kakuzu, exuding a cold aura, walked in carrying a corpse. The originally noisy scene inside the gold exchange suddenly became quiet. All the bounty hunters who saw Kakuzu coming in lowered their heads and remained silent, not daring to look directly at Kakuzu. It can be said that among these old bounty hunters who have been in the underground gold exchange for a long time, which one would not know this Uncle Kakuzu who is famous in the underground world? This is the deterrent power of the strongest bounty hunter. Several new bounty hunters looked at the scene in front of them in bewilderment, not knowing what was going on. They just wanted to raise their heads to look around, but were immediately stared at by other bounty hunters who knew the inside story and held their heads down. The novice bounty hunters were pinned to the ground, not daring to look up, and could only wait quietly. They didn't know what they had done wrong, but judging from the reactions of the people around them, this was obviously not a good sign. The bounty hunters present all stared at Kakuzu's back nervously until he slowly disappeared deep into the underground gold exchange. Finally, when Kakuzu walked into the room deep in the underground gold exchange to exchange bounties, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. They subconsciously released the hands that were holding down the new bounty hunter, allowing them to catch their breath. At this time, one of the new bounty hunters looked up, as if he wanted to ask something. But before he could finish his words, a group of bounty hunters rushed up and punched and kicked him. Kid! A bounty hunter was tired of fighting, so he stopped and walked aside to speak. His tone was unusually cold, and his eyes were full of threats and warnings. If you don't want to die, open your eyes. When you meet Lord Kakuzu in the future, lower your head as much as possible. Otherwise, even if Lord Kakuzu doesn't bother you, we will. Got it? A kind bounty hunter educated these newbies about Kakuzu's heroic deeds. When they learned of Kakuzu's notorious reputation, the newbies couldn't help but tremble, their faces turned pale as paper, and they broke out in cold sweat. Only now did they realize how reckless and suicidal their behavior was. Kakuzu is not an easy character to deal with. Once he is in a bad mood, he will probably remember everyone present, and then kill them one by one after they leave the town. Although, most of these bounty hunters were small-time characters, not worth much bounty, and their hearts were not worthy of Kakuzu's attention, so they were not worthy of Kakuzu's attack. Our Lord Kakuzu only does big business. However, if Kakuzu is really unhappy, he will still take action. After all, these little karamis can be crushed to death with ease for him, Kakuzu, so it is easy to deal with them. Mr. Kakuzu. Here is your 1 million ryo. The person in charge of the underground gold exchange here respectfully handed a black leather suitcase filled with banknotes to Kakuzu. Kakuzu reached out to take the box, nodded without comment, opened the box on the spot, and began counting the money. Although the reputation of underground gold exchange offices has always been very good in this regard and there will be no situation where you are shortchanged, he still has to count the money himself. For Kakuzu, who has experienced betrayal and has an extremely long life, money is the most trustworthy thing in this ninja world. Therefore, after receiving the bounty, counting the banknotes one by one with his hands is what he is most passionate about and is also the source of his motivation to earn the bounty. The pleasure of passing through the banknotes one by one made Jiaodu enjoy it immensely. He was addicted to it and couldn't extricate himself. As the last banknote was counted, Kakuzu closed the black leather suitcase again, held it in his hand, turned and left. At the same time, the person in charge of the underground gold exchange had secretly passed Kakuzu's whereabouts to Otsutsuki Tenshin via telegram, but this was a useless effort for Tenshin's team. Because, under Nagato's reminder, Otsutsuki Tenshin had already used the Byakugan to lock onto Kakuzu. At this time, Tenshin's team was quietly waiting for Kakuzu's arrival on the outskirts of the town. Kakuzu walked out of the hot spring town slowly, carrying a black leather suitcase. Then, he saw Otsutsuki Tenshin, Nagato, Yahiko, and Konoha not far away. Kakuzu paused for a moment, then continued to approach the four people. Although he was a skilled and courageous man and vaguely sensed the approximate strength of Otsutsuki Tenshin, he was still not afraid at all. After all, he is a man with 5 hearts. Being cowardly before the battle doesn't fit in with his status as the strongest bounty hunter, Kakuzu. The Hyuga clan? And the Uzumaki clan? A standard Jonin team, it seems they are here to seek revenge on me. As the distance between the two sides continued to narrow, Kakuzu saw Otsutsuki Tenshin's iconic Byakugan at a glance and said to himself. You know, he had dealt a heavy blow to the Konoha White Fang Hitaki Sakumo in the past, and now, Konoha has come to his door. However, Kakuzu recognized the wrong person, but this is understandable. After all, in the general perception of the ninja world, the Byakugan and the Uzumaki clan both belong to Konoha. A cold light flashed in Kakuzu's green eyes. He put the black leather suitcase in his hand into the storage scroll he carried with him, and then suddenly launched an attack. Sneak attack. The first to strike is the strongest. The last to strike will suffer. Having lived for so many years, Kakuzu understands this truth well. Earth style, earth spear. Kakuzu's figure disappeared from the spot in an instant, and appeared in front of Otsutsuki Tenshin the next second, with a black glow on his fist, and he punched down hard. Disperse! Otsutsuki Tenshin shouted. The moment Kakuzu disappeared, he knew something was wrong. He instantly opened his Byakugan and gathered chakra on his hands, blocking Kakuzu's heavy punch. Although Otsutsuki Tenshin blocked Kakuzu's heavy punch in time, he was caught off guard and was hastily defended, so he was still knocked away by Kakuzu's fist that was hardened by earth escape. Otsutsuki Tenshin's body kept retreating uncontrollably, and his feet left 2 deep marks on the ground. Otsutsuki Tenshin was full of questions. What was wrong with Kakuzu? Why didn't he play by the rules? We didn't show any hostility, so why did he attack right away? Couldn't we just talk it out first? A wonderful misunderstanding was formed inadvertently. However, the battle had already broken out with Kakuzu's brazen attack. So, there was no need for Otsutsuki Tenshin to explain anything. Let's just fight first. However, Kakuzu, who had been through many battles, would not give Otsutsuki Tenshin a chance to breathe. He instantly stepped forward again, grabbed Otsutsuki Tenshin's wrist with his hardened left hand, and at the same time, he gathered strength with his right hand and punched Otsutsuki Tenshin in the abdomen, knocking Otsutsuki Tenshin out again. Immediately afterwards, Kakuzu once again rushed forward and caught up with Otsutsuki Tenshin, who was flying backwards. He raised his elbow and smashed it hard on Otsutsuki Tenshin's head. Otsutsuki Tenshin lost the initiative and was hit by 2 heavy punches from Kakuzu. He was unable to put up any effective resistance for a while. Looking at Kakuzu's iron elbow coming at him, he could only expend a large amount of chakra to spread over the acupuncture points all over his body, and then released it in one breath. Gossip, back to heaven. Otsutsuki Tenshin twisted his body forcefully and began to spin rapidly, like a gyroscope, making circular motions, and the moment Kakuzu's iron elbow came down, he was bounced away. At this time, Nagato, Yahiko, and Konan, who had just made evasive moves in time at the reminder of Otsutsuki Tenshin, saw that their captain finally got rid of Kakuzu's entanglement and bounced him away, so they formed hand seals at the same time and launched an attack on Kakuzu. Water style, Black Rain technique. A rain of paper cranes. Fire release Phoenix Immortal Fire technique. The 3 of them once again coordinated their attacks and bombarded Kakuzu, who was bounced away and fell to the ground by Kaden. The smoke and dust stirred up by the explosion gradually dissipated, and Kakuzu's figure appeared. As expected, he was unharmed, except for his clothes, which were torn a lot by the explosion. It turned out that Kakuzu activated Earth Escape, Earth Spear again just before the explosion, hardening his entire body and blocking the continuous bombardment. All I can say is that the law of there is smoke but no harm is basically applicable everywhere. Nagato. Yahiko. Konan. Otsutsuki Tenshin's stern voice came, just watch from behind, don't take any action. I want to have a good fight with this guy who started a fight without even saying hello. Otsutsuki Tenshin was very unhappy. He felt that Kakuzu had no respect for patience at all and would just attack without listening to anyone. When he was outside the village, he represented the face of the Otsutsuki clan and even the face of the Hidden Mist village. Therefore, he needed to let Kakuzu know what Otsutsuki was and what the Hidden Mist village was. White eyes, pressure. Otsutsuki Tenshin glared fiercely at Kakuzu who had just experienced the explosion. At the same time, Otsutsuki Tenshin continued to gather chakra in the palms of his hands. The Byakugan exuded a huge pressure, which went straight towards Kakuzu. The huge invisible pressure enveloped and shocked Kakuzu, causing him to pause for a moment in the process of forming hand seals. This was the opportunity that Otsutsuki Tenshin wanted. 8 trigrams, empty palm. The chakra gathered in the palms of his hands was fired fiercely, and Otsutsuki Tenshin aimed at Kakuzu's position and threw 2 palms into the air. A low and heavy sound of air friction was heard, accompanied by a shrill scream, and 2 balls of high-density chakra rushed towards Kakuzu. Chapter 267. Kakuzu's face changed. Was that feeling of oppression just now the Byakugan's eye technique? However, he has lived for so many years, experienced the Warring States period, the Ninja Village period, and fought against the Hyuga clan, but he never knew that the Byakugan could also perform eye techniques. Kakuzu's hand seals were interrupted, and he wanted to make new hand seals to perform new ninjutsu, but it was too late. The 2 chakra balls emitted by the 8 trigrams empty palm were already close at hand. So Kakuzu had to dodge, but this was exactly what Otsutsuki Tenshin wanted. From the 3rd Mizukage Bing, Otsutsuki Tenshin had a relatively good understanding of Kakuzu's information. As a close combat physical skills type ninja, Otsutsuki Tenshin knew where his weaknesses lay, so he had to entangle Kakuzu in close combat and try his best to prevent Kakuzu from having the opportunity to release ninjutsu. Otsutsuki Tenshin's figure instantly appeared beside Kakuzu, and he pushed out a palm towards Kakuzu's heart. The movement seemed extremely slow, but in fact it was as fast as lightning. 8 trigrams breaking the mountain. Intense chakra fluctuations erupted in Kakuzu's body, and the full-strength attack of the mountain-breaking strike was like a huge laser ray, which directly knocked Kakuzu far away. He flew hundreds of meters before falling weakly to the ground. Although Kakuzu sensed the danger and used Earth Escape to harden his body in time, he was still unable to completely block Otsutsuki Tenshin's attack. The defense formed by the Earth Spear on his body's surface was instantly penetrated, and his heart was directly pierced by the attack of the mountain-breaking strike. After completing this attack, Otsutsuki Tenshin did not relax his vigilance, but rushed quickly towards the direction where Kakuzu landed, ready to make another effort and kill Kakuzu again. He had the intelligence about Kakuzu, so he knew clearly that this guy had 5 hearts. However, Kakuzu did not give him this opportunity again. When Otsutsuki Tenshin was still 30 or 40 meters away from Kakuzu, Kakuzu had already crawled up from the ground, expelled the broken heart representing water jutsu from his body, and summoned 3 masked monsters representing fire jutsu, wind jutsu, and lightning jutsu, then fused them into his body and directly activated the Earth Grievance mode, turning into a monster with black threads dancing all over his body. Otsutsuki Tenshin saw that Kakuzu had recovered and directly entered the Earth Grudge mode. He was not afraid at all and continued to step forward quickly. His right hand was flashing with blue chakra light, which was a manifestation of the extremely rich chakra overflow. Otsutsuki Tenshin slapped Kakuzu, and Kakuzu retaliated by raising his fist that was hardened by Earth Escape and punched out with full force. Boom! The moment the palm and fist collided, it was like a bomb exploding on the calm lake, causing a huge wave of chakra. This air wave was centered on the 2 objects and violently repelled them in all directions, forming a powerful airflow. The figures of Otsutsuki Tenshin and Kakuzu suddenly sank, and with the impact of the air wave, a huge dent visible to the naked eye quickly appeared under their feet. The deep pit formed by this depression continued to expand, and the surrounding land collapsed, raising dust and sand all over the sky. The chaotic chakra aura was like surging waves, constantly fluctuating, making Nagato, Yahiko and Konan, who were watching the battle closely from the back, feel an indescribable sense of oppression. At this moment, the hair of both of them seemed to be raging in the wind, swaying and flying behind them. "Hi ga brat!" Kakuzu said gloomily, his face darkening. He didn't expect that this Hyga clan guy had so many tricks. He, who had the advantage of the first move, actually had his heart destroyed first. "You have successfully angered your Uncle Kakuzu. Use your heart to make up for the loss of Uncle Kakuzu. Your heart. Master Kakuzu will take it." Under Kakuzu's control, the black silk thread of the earth grievance began to wrap around Otsutsuki Tenshin madly, trying to capture him directly and then take out his heart. Humph! Otsutsuki Tenshin did not answer, but snorted coldly. Not only did Kakuzu want his heart, he even mistook him for a member of the Hyga clan. You know, although they are all descendants of Hamura, he is from the noble Otsutsuki clan, not the Hyga clan whose inheritance has been cut off. 8 trigrams, 1 hit. All the acupoints in Otsutsuki Tenshin's body opened at the same time, and a huge amount of chakra surged out like a flood breaking through a dam. These chakras penetrated through the body and formed a powerful chakra whirlwind, instantly shattering the entangled black threads of earth resentment. Then, Otsutsuki Tenshin instantly increased the output of chakra in the palm of his hand, and pushed his palm forward with all his strength, directly approaching Kakuzu. This time, he wanted to destroy Kakuzu's earth escape heart. Feeling Otsutsuki Tenshin's outburst, Kakuzu did not show any weakness. The destruction of the earth grievance thread had no backlash on him at all, so he also increased his chakra output, pushing his iron fist forward with all his strength, confronting Otsutsuki Tenshin's palm head-on. In an instant, another extremely violent chakra wave burst out, with 2 people mixed in the wave. The chakra that burst out and splashed in all directions turned into a huge chakra storm, whistling and sweeping in all directions. The surrounding air seemed to be distorted by this powerful chakra wave, and it kept making crackling sounds. The 2 of them were in a stalemate, and the deep pit under their feet was getting bigger and bigger under the influence of the chakra wave. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Time seemed to pass very slowly at this moment, and finally, after realizing that neither of them could effectively break through the other's defense, they looked at each other fiercely and chose to retreat at the same time. Boom! Another dull collision sound was heard, and under the push of the huge reverse force, the bodies of Otsutsuki Tenshin and Kakuzu instantly turned into 2 blurred after-images, flying backwards at an astonishing speed. Their shoes rubbed violently against the ground, making a constant harsh sound. Time seemed to slow down at this moment, and every moment seemed to be stretched. After 5 short yet long breaths, everything returned to calm. Otsutsuki Tenshin and Kakuzu each pulled their feet out of the mud, their faces showing solemn expressions and a hint of vigilance. They slowly raised their heads, their eyes met, staring at each other, as if looking for each other's flaws. At this moment, the whole space was filled with a tense atmosphere, as if a storm was about to come. The auras of Otsutsuki Tenshin and Kakuzu intertwined, forming an invisible pressure that made the air around them heavy. Suddenly, the chakra of both sides exploded at the same time. Otsutsuki Tenshin used the same trick again, and the 8 trigrams, empty wall palm was launched. A group of high-density chakra gas bombs whizzed towards Kakuzu. Kakuzu retreated quickly. After the fight just now, he already understood that in terms of physical skills alone, he was no match for this kid from the Hyga clan. However, Kakuzu was quite clear about the fighting style of the Hyga clan. Therefore, he prepared to keep his distance, transform himself into a ninjutsu turret, use kite-flying tactics, and bombard Otsutsuki Tenshin. 2 dun 2 liubi. Chakra surged under Kakuzu's feet, and a thick earth wall rose from the ground, blocking the chakra energy bullet of the Kongbei palm. Then Kakuzu jumped high, and the masks on his left and right shoulders opened their mouths at the same time. Fire style, head hard work. Wind style, suppress. Combined ninjutsu, strange face explosion. Accompanied by violent chakra fluctuations, a huge sea of fire, like a roaring dragon, with the powerful boost of wind escape, swept towards Otsutsuki Tenshin fiercely and unstoppably. Otsutsuki Tenshin's forward steps came to an abrupt halt. He helplessly tapped the ground with his toes, changed direction and dodged to the side. At the same time, he placed his right hand on his waist and began to accumulate strength. The flames in the sea of fire were hot and violent, carrying endless destructive power, as if to devour everything. And with the blessing of wind escape, a huge firestorm was formed, mixed with blazing flames and sharp wind blades. Although Otsutsuki Tenshin changed the direction of the charge, the scale of Kakuzu's combination ninjutsu was too large, and it was about to affect Otsutsuki Tenshin. At this moment, a dazzling white light lit up, and Otsutsuki Tenshin slowly extended his right palm forward. God Air Attack! That's right, originally in the Otsutsuki clan on the moon, only the elders who could resonate with the giant Rinnegan could practice this ultimate-level physical technique. Under Seiji's hands-on teaching over the years, it has been completely mastered by Otsutsuki Tenshin. Although it consumes a lot of chakra, its power is more than enough to match the consumed chakra. As for the Raise Nan and Raise Nan that require the power of the giant Rinnegan to use, Otsutsuki Tenshin has no chance of mastering them. After all, although he is an Otsutsuki, his bloodline level is still far from being able to awaken the Rinnegan. A giant translucent chakra fist slammed into the sea of fire, instantly piercing through it and tearing a huge hole. The raging and exploding sea of fire was split into two in front of Otsutsuki Tenshin, bypassing his body and continuing to burn to the back. Otsutsuki Tenshin continued to rush towards Kakuzu, while his pupil power gathered at his eyes. White eyes, pressure. Otsutsuki Tenshin once again used the Byakugan's technique, trying to interfere with Kakuzu's hand seals, stop him from continuing to use ninjutsu, and buy enough time for him to close the distance. However, how could Kakuzu, who had suffered a loss once, be affected by the same move again? Moreover, he had been on guard against it for a long time. Kakuzu paused for a moment while forming hand seals under the invisible pressure from Otsutsuki Tenshin, but the mask on his body had already prepared for the second wave of attack, and he continued to perform ninjutsu. Fire style, head hard work. Wind style, suppress. Lightning release, pseudo darkness. Combination ninjutsu, final shot. A terrifying chakra cannon that was extremely dazzling, flashing red, white and blue light, arrived in front of Otsutsuki Tenshin in an instant. Otsutsuki Tenshin's face changed drastically. He didn't expect that Kakuzu could perform such a terrifying combination of ninjutsu under the influence of the Byakugan and the pressure. Failed. The chakra under Otsutsuki Tenshin's feet exploded instantly, forcibly stopping his forward charge. He jumped slightly, and his body began to spin wildly at a high speed in mid-air. Gossip, back to heaven. Boom. Accompanied by a deafening roar, a colorful light burst out instantly. The final shot, composed of fire style, wind style, and lightning style, fell as rapidly as a meteor, with unparalleled power, and hit Otsutsuki Tenshin's hastily performed Kaden. At this moment, time seemed to freeze. The violent chakra fluctuations continued to impact Kaden's defense, making a sizzling sound, as if trying to break through this solid barrier. Otsutsuki Tenshin, who was spinning at high speed, had a solemn look on his face. He tried his best to maintain the chakra output of Kaden, trying to withstand this powerful attack. However, the power of the final shot exceeded Otsutsuki Tenshin's expectations, and he also overestimated the strength of the Kaden he performed in a hurry. In the fierce collision, cracks began to appear in Hoshin's defense, and gradually spread. With a crisp cracking sound, Hoshin's defense finally collapsed completely after being overwhelmed. However, the power of the final shot had been almost completely consumed by Kaden's defense. At the last critical moment, Otsutsuki Tenshin showed amazing reaction speed and combat skills. He slightly tilted his body, allowing the terrifying chakra cannon to fly past his shoulder. Although he was not hit in the vitals, Otsutsuki Tenshin was still severely knocked flying in mid-air by the huge kinetic energy carried by the final shot. His body kept spinning in the air, and blood kept spilling from his shoulders. Blood splashed in the air, like a blooming weird flower. Its petals were as bright as blood, flashing with strange light. Every drop of blood was flying in the air, jumping and dancing as if it was given life. In the end, Otsutsuki Tenshin fell to the ground in a mess, stirring up thick dust. Kakuzu's final shot hit the ground not far behind Otsutsuki Tenshin, causing another huge explosion. Smoke and dust filled the air, flames shot up into the sky, electric arcs ran rampant, and the whole place was in a mess. Chapter 268. This scene was just as Kingsley had expected. Otsutsuki Tenshin lacks long-range attack means, so once he is pulled away from Kakuzu, he will not have much advantage over Kakuzu. Moreover, Kakuzu, who has 5 hearts, has a very high tolerance rate. 5 lives and 5 chances give him an advantage in the battle against Otsutsuki Tenshin, a melee physical ninja. Otsutsuki Tenshin struggled to get up from the ground, covering his bloody shoulder and gritting his teeth. He knew that Zionin carried with him a scroll that could summon the head of the family, but he was not willing to give up just like that. He also had a fighting heart, and deep in his heart he also burned with the desire and persistence to fight. Kakuzu looked at Otsutsuki Tenshin, who had been injured by him, his green eyes gleaming with a gleam of light. "Hinata brat. Master Kakuzu will take your heart." He did not expect to obtain Otsutsuki Tenshin's Byakugan. After all, it was well known that a Hyuga clan member who could come out on a mission alone could not be the main family, and the Byakugan of a branch family with the caged bird curse seal was not worth obtaining at all. Earth Grudge, Tentacle Fist. As soon as he finished speaking, Kakuzu attacked fiercely. He pulled hard and separated the black threads on his arm. His wrist and arm were immediately separated from each other. Then, dense black threads were released from Kakuzu's arm, and he shot towards Otsutsuki Tenshin with his fist hardened by the earth escape technique. Otsutsuki Tenshin stood in the same place, still covering his shoulder, without any movement, neither dodging nor evading. He just lowered his head slightly, with a slight smile on the corners of his mouth. He had already thought of the latest battle plan against Kakuzu. Kakuzu didn't think there was anything wrong, he just thought that Otsutsuki Tenshin was hit by his final shot and lost the power to resist. After all, Kakuzu had full confidence in the power of his 3-attribute combination ninjutsu. He believed that no ninja could escape unscathed from this move, not even the resurrected god of ninja, the first Hokage, Senju Hashirama. The tentacle fist flew through the air and hit Otsutsuki Tenshin heavily on the chest. Then, the black silk thread of earth resentment quickly extended and tightly bound Otsutsuki Tenshin before he flew backwards. Black threads flew all over the sky, then gathered at the heart of Otsutsuki Tenshin, gradually merging into Otsutsuki Tenshin's body. Earth's Grudge, Heart Seizure. Kakuzu used his secret technique to seize the heart, intending to kill Otsutsuki Tenshin in one fell swoop. All this happened in just a short moment. When Nagato, Yahiko, and Konan in the back realized something was wrong and wanted to rescue him, the black threads of the earth grievance had already taken root deeply into Otsutsuki Tenshin's body. However, just as Kakuzu had already launched the secret technique and slowly pulled out Otsutsuki Tenshin's heart, Otsutsuki Tenshin raised his head, looked at Kakuzu steadily with his white eyes, and the smile at the corners of his mouth continued to grow. Boom! 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 The sound of heartbeats continued to be heard, but Kakuzu's heart was filled with alarm bells. At this moment, he suddenly realized that he was probably too excited about getting the heart of the Hyuga clan to notice that when he was taking the heart, the other party did not even put up a single resistance. However, it was too late. Otsutsuki Tenshin's long-planned attack instantly came along the black thread of earth resentment that connected the two people. 8 trigrams striking palm. Otsutsuki Tenshin's chakra suddenly became extremely violent, like surging waves, constantly churning, and the blue chakra aura materialized and penetrated his body. Immediately, ripples that were shaking to the extreme surged towards the corner along the black silk threads. Ugh! Kakuzu groaned and stared at Otsutsuki Tenshin with an extremely grim look in his eyes. Intense pain instantly spread throughout Kakuzu's body, and the heart in his body that represented his earth escape technique was shattered by Otsutsuki Tenshin's attack. And this is the second heart he lost. Otsutsuki Tenshin took advantage of the opportunity when Kakuzu's heart was shot and he could not concentrate on controlling the black thread, and quickly pulled it out of his body. Then he broke away from the control of the black thread and quickly retreated to the position of Nagato, Yahiko, and Konan behind him. The previous attack consumed most of his remaining chakra. Now he had lost the strength to continue fighting with Kakuzu. However, Otsutsuki Tenshin is already proud enough. Although his hard power is slightly inferior to Kakuzu and his combat mode is restrained by Kakuzu, he still killed Kakuzu twice in head-on battles and destroyed his 2 hearts. This is already enough to prove his strength. Although Kakuzu is always jokingly said to have thrown a shuriken at the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, from 800 miles away and then fled, it is undeniable that Kakuzu, who has 5 hearts and can skillfully use 5 types of chakra and ninjutsu, and even combination ninjutsu of various combined attributes, ranks very high among the cage-level powerhouses in terms of strength. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is close to the limit of the cage level. The ninjutsu professor who claimed to be proficient in all the ninjutsu of Konoha and the 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, the strongest Hokage of all generations, was nothing more than a little Kakuzu. On the other hand, Kakuzu absorbed the mask representing lightning release into his body and was resurrected again. Has the information been leaked? This Hyuga brat, every move is aimed at my heart. Kakuzu felt a little palpitated and a little angry. Konoha must have known his secret. The immortal body with 5 hearts is the basis for Kakuzu to dominate the ninja world, and it is also the biggest secret of his immortality. So, as soon as he was resurrected, he clasped his hands together and launched an attack on Otsutsuki Tenshin. He wanted to capture Otsutsuki Tenshin and find out how much information Konoha knew about him. Lightning release, pseudo-darkness. A sharp and dazzling lightning spear approached Otsutsuki Tenshin, who was retreating rapidly at an extremely fast speed. Otsutsuki Tenshin dodged, but the lightning spear, under Kakuzu's superb control, unexpectedly twisted in the air and attacked Otsutsuki Tenshin again. In desperation, Otsutsuki Tenshin had to use the little chakra left in his body and used 8 trigrams Kaden again to block Kakuzu's attack. Very good. Little Hyuga boy, Master Kakuzu has recognized you. Master Kakuzu will leave you an intact body. Kakuzu became more and more satisfied with Otsutsuki Tenshin's heart. This heart must be very powerful to be able to fight with him to such an extent. Uncle Kakuzu has been active in the ninja world for decades, but there are very few ninjas who can make me suffer such a big loss. This reminds me of the Konoha ninja who I first fought against, the first Hokage, Senju Hashirama. Kakuzu, who had calmed down at this time, said the most pretentious words with a calm face, and there was a hint of admiration for Otsutsuki Tenshin in his tone. Excuse me. Otsutsuki Tenshin, who had been mistaken by Kakuzu, finally couldn't stand it anymore and interrupted Kakuzu, who was pretending to be cool. I'm not from the Hyuga clan, and we're not ninjas from Konoha. Hey! Kakuzu, who was about to continue telling about the passionate years of fighting with Hashirama Senju, was stunned when he heard Otsutsuki Tenshin's words. His pretentious spell-casting motion was directly interrupted by Otsutsuki Tenshin. Kakuzu was speechless at this time. Why didn't you say so earlier that he was not a ninja from Konoha? However, he did not reflect on his own problems at all. You know, in this nonsensical battle, it was clearly him who launched the sneak attack first. However, Kakuzu was already in a difficult situation at this time. No matter which ninja village these ninjas were from, since they knew the secret of Daiyuan, there was no reason to let them go. Moreover, he was determined to get the heart of this Byakugan ninja. The 2 hearts he lost could just be used to replace one of them. Kakuzu's expression turned fierce, and he completed the seal instantly. The fire and wind jutsu masks on his left and right shoulders lit up at the same time. Fire style, head hard work. Wind style, suppress. Combined ninjutsu, flame wind wave. The wind was howling, and the fire was fueled by the wind. The raging fire roared like an angry dragon, and the blazing flames danced in the air, as if to devour everything. Under the blessing of the B-level pressure, the B-level head burst out with power beyond the ordinary A-level ninjutsu. The raging sea of fire, like a burning ocean, swept towards Otsutsuki Tenshin and the other 3 with overwhelming force. Konan! Nagato and Yahiko shouted together, and then began to form hand seals at the same time. Their perception told them clearly that Captain Otsutsuki Tenshin, who was already at the end of his strength, probably could not withstand this combination of ninjutsu alone. When Nagato and Yahiko spoke, Konan had already taken out the scroll that could summon CG from her ninja tool bag. She also had a keen judgment of the situation. Water style, break the flow. Wind style, tornado hurricane. Combined ninjutsu, hurricane water vortex jutsu. Nagato and Yahiko also chose combined ninjutsu to respond. The chakra in their bodies surged instantly, and a huge water vortex appeared out of thin air, like a ferocious dragon, spinning at high speed and making a deafening roar. Then, the water vortex pounced towards the sea of fire with endless power. The raging sea of fire and the vortex of water flow collided, instantly raising sheets of water mist. The intersection of water and fire produced a large amount of steam, making the surrounding air hot and humid. For a moment, the vortex of water was like an indestructible wall of water, standing firmly in front of the sea of fire, blocking the way for the sea of fire to continue spreading. Although with the current strength of Nagato and Yahiko, the power of the combined ninjutsu they performed together is not as strong as Kakuzu's combination ninjutsu, but under the attribute restraint, they can still hold out for a while. What's more, their purpose is only to delay Kakuzu's attack and buy enough time for Konan to summon CG. As the seals in his hands kept changing, the chakra in Konan's body poured into the scroll frantically. Although the scroll only sealed one of Kingxie's shadow clones, it was a shadow clone with the strength of a shadow level. The unlocking technique still required the consumption of a considerable amount of chakra. After 3 breaths, the hurricane water vortex technique was completely wiped out by the raging wind and waves. Only the large amount of water vapor remaining in the air proved that it had existed. However, although the scale of the Sea of Fire had shrunk a lot compared to before, it still maintained a considerable scale. The blazing Sea of Fire continued to press towards the position of several people. However, Konan had already taken advantage of this opportunity to complete the unsealing ritual and successfully summoned out the shadow clone that Kingji had sealed in the scroll. Boom! A puff of white smoke dissipated, and Kingxi's figure appeared in front of Konan, dressed in the standard Otsutsuki clan attire. Teacher Cg. Nagato, Yahiko, and Konan said respectfully at the same time. Otsutsuki Tenshin, who looked very embarrassed not far away, saw the head of his family appear, and quickly came over and greeted Kingxi respectfully. Ching Si nodded calmly, opened his pure eye, and then switched to his samsara eye in an instant. His figure slowly floated up, and his eyes shining with sky blue light swept across the entire battlefield. In a moment, he had a clear understanding of the current situation. Good. After understanding the situation, Kyoji began to praise. He had never defeated Kakuzu, which was within his expectations, but he was worthy of praise for being able to successfully destroy Kakuzu's 2 hearts, one of which was his most powerful Earth-style heart. Sensing the sudden emergence of a powerful chakra aura, Kakuzu, knowing that the enemy's reinforcements had arrived, gradually began to consider retreating. Even if he could successfully obtain the heart of the Byakugan ninja, it was very likely that 1 or 2 of his remaining 3 hearts would be destroyed, which was really not worth it. So, before Impuranpa's attack could reach Cg and the others, Kakuzu released his ultimate move again and turned around to retreat. Fire style, head hard work. Wind style, suppress. Lightning release, pseudo darkness. Combination ninjutsu, final shot. The terrifying chakra fluctuations raged like a storm, and a thick chakra cannon came rushing at an astonishing speed in an instant. However, this time, Otsutsuki Tenshin and the other 3 had no intention of dodging or defending at all. Because, the omnipotent god in their minds, the 4th Mizukage, Otsutsuki Cg, is here right now. Kingxi's figure floating in the air was like a towering mountain, giving them endless sense of security and confidence. Chapter 269. And Kingxi, of course, would not let them down. Looking at the blazing Sea of Fire and the final shooting that followed, he calmly raised his right hand, his eyes shining brightly. Sealing technique, suction seal. A translucent chakra protective shield suddenly appeared in front of Kingxi, flashing a faint light, like a tough barrier, blocking the fierce waves of fire and the final shooting that followed. The scorching torrent and the exploding chakra cannon were unable to break through Kingxi's defense no matter how hard they tried. Instead, the chakra contained in them was quickly devoured by Kingxi. In the blink of an eye, Kakuzu's 2 combined ninjutsu were completely absorbed by Cg. Kakuzu, who was retreating, sensed this scene and was immediately horrified. He fired such a big final shot. He could understand the disappearance of Flame Wind Wave. After all, the opponent also used a combination of ninjutsu, and it was a combination of ninjutsu with restrained attributes, but where was his final shot? This was Kakuzu's strongest attack. At this point, Kakuzu had no idea that he had hit a wall this time, and he might really be in trouble. Kyoji locked onto the fleeing Kakuzu from a distance, clasped his hands together, and instantly released the large amount of chakra he had just absorbed. Wind release vacuum jade. An air cannon compressed to the extreme shot out from Kingxi's mouth. This vacuum ball was infused with all the chakra that Kingji had just absorbed. Therefore, its speed exceeded that of A-level wind-style ninjutsu and even exceeded the speed of sound propagation. Moreover, due to the intense friction between it and the surrounding air, it formed an extremely piercing whistling sound, as if it was going to tear the entire space apart. Call out! The air cannon cut through the sky, flashed away, and caught up with Kakuzu in an instant. Although Kakuzu had sensed the danger, the air cannon was moving too fast for him to react. When he heard the whistling sound, the air cannon had already passed over Kakuzu and hit him heavily less than 10 meters in front of him. Boom! The moment it hit the ground, the air cannon released huge energy, causing a violent explosion. The shock wave and heat wave generated by the explosion spread in all directions, destroying the surrounding trees and rocks into pieces. The Kakuzu who was caught off guard was also affected by the impact of the explosion which almost hit him in the face, and was blown back. Kingxi pointed his right hand at Kakuzu, who was flying in the air and tumbling in the air, trying hard to control his body, and activated the gravity directly. All things are attracted by heaven. Under the tremendous gravitational force, Kakuzu, who was flying in the air, was pulled over by Kingxi without any resistance. Kyoshi did not try to grab Kakuzu, but when Kakuzu's body was about to reach him, he instantly converted the gravity into repulsion. Shinra Tenzen. Before Kakuzu could react, he was pushed to the ground by the extremely terrifying repulsive force. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening bang, Kakuzu fell rapidly at an astonishing speed like a meteor under the push of repulsion and hit the ground hard. This collision was like a meteorite falling, causing a violent roar, and the earth seemed to be shaking under this shocking impact. In an instant, dust flew up, forming a thick cloud of smoke that quickly spread around. When the smoke and dust cleared, a huge deep pit with a diameter of several meters appeared on the ground, and Kakuzu was lying quietly at the bottom of the pit, motionless, as if he had lost any signs of life. The invincible Kakuzu has fallen. Kingxi slowly descended and stood on the edge of the deep pit, looking down at Kakuzu who was lying dead at the bottom of the pit. After being hit by Seiji's combination of punches, Kakuzu lost another heart, leaving only the last 2 hearts. However, Kakuzu had lost the courage to resist. Back then, even when he faced the god of ninja, the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, he had never felt as powerless as he does now. Kakuzu lay helplessly at the bottom of the pit, staring at the sky with lifeless eyes, without moving for a long time, like a salted fish that had lost its dreams. He was defeated by Kingxi's shadow clone and started to move on the spot. Otsutsuki Tenshin came over with Nagato, Yahiko, and Konan. Looking at Kakuzu who was easily dealt with by Seiji, and thinking back to the tough battle they had just faced, they couldn't help but secretly smack their lips in amazement, and couldn't help but sigh again at the strength of their own teacher/family head. And this is just a shadow clone. It was really hard for them to imagine what kind of strength Seiji's real body had now, and whether he had already rivaled the legendary ancestor of ninjas, the six-path sage Otsutsuki Hago Romo. Kakuzu. An S-rank rebel ninja from Kirigakure. Possessing the secret technique Earth Grudge. Seiji spoke calmly, and began to tell the information about Kakuzu. He was once assigned by the Kirigakure high-level officials to assassinate the first Hokage of Konoha village, Senju Hashirama, but failed. After returning to the village, Kakuzu, who was lying dead, could not help but be secretly surprised after listening to Kingxi's detailed narration. He had not expected that in this day and age, there were still people who knew him so well, an old man who was almost 70 years old. "Excuse me, who are you?" Kakuzu asked weakly, with an unconscious honorific in his voice. At this moment, he didn't dare to call himself Uncle Kakuzu anymore. Although he was a ruthless guy, it was obvious that the other party would be even more ruthless than him. The reason why he could dominate the ninja world for so many years was that he was a man of insight and adaptability. "This is the 4th Mizukage of our hidden mist village." Before Kyoshi could speak, Yahiko on the side introduced Kakuzu first. Kakuzu was silent for a moment. "Good news. They are definitely not from Konoha village." "Bad news. They are from the hidden mist village. They seem to be here to seek revenge. My life is over." Kakuzu has not forgotten that a few years ago, he took on a big order from the Kagaya clan of the hidden mist village. His mission was to stop the 3rd Mizukage of the hidden mist village, Bing, and create an opportunity for the Kagaya clan leader, Kagaya Musashi, to kill the successor to the Mizukage. Although the mission failed in the end and he was unable to get the balance, he was involved in Kagaya Musashi's plan to assassinate the successor to the Mizukage. Moreover, it was obvious that the ninja who had knocked him down easily was the successor of the Mizukage back then, the current 4th Mizukage. However, what Kingxi said next made Kakuzu a little confused. "You are the most powerful bounty hunter. We in the Hidden Mist Village want to hire you to carry out a mission. Of course, there will be a reward. I wonder if you will accept it." Seiji looked at Kakuzu who was still lying on the ground motionless, and asked directly. Kakuzu was dumbfounded after hearing this. He had said earlier that he came to hire me, the strongest bounty hunter, to carry out the mission, otherwise how could a fight have happened? When you talk about money, I get excited. After all, making money is the top priority for me in Kakuzu. Of course, Kakuzu subconsciously ignored the fact that he was the one who started the fight. At this moment, Kakuzu's heart was churning wildly, and thoughts kept flashing through his mind. However, it seems that the beating that Kakuzu received today was in vain, and even if he wanted to seek revenge later, he would not dare to do so. You have to know that that was the Mizukage of the Hidden Mist Village, one of the 5 major ninja villages. He was a lone bounty hunter, so he had to take his head with him. He was not like those reckless men in the Hidden Cloud Village, whose brains were filled with muscles. However, the huge loss of 3 hearts in this battle made his heart bleed. How much? Kakuzu spoke like an old bounty hunter. He didn't even ask about the details of the mission, but directly asked about the most critical reward. To him, as long as the money is in place, even the Hokage can kill you. After entering the field he was good at, Kakuzu seemed to be injected with endless energy. His originally dying state disappeared instantly, as if he was revived with full blood. He no longer lay there motionless, but suddenly displayed amazing explosive power and flipped up from the ground with a somersault. Then, he jumped out of the deep pit with another leap and landed steadily on the ground. Then, he quickly rushed towards Ching Si and arrived in front of Ching Si in the blink of an eye. It has to be said that money has infinite magic power for Kakuzu. The target of the mission is Konoha White Fang Hitaki Sakumo. In 1 month, he will carry out a secret mission in the territory of the Land of Hot Springs. Your mission is to disrupt his action. Whether you can kill him and take his head to the underground exchange office to exchange for a bounty depends on you. As for the mission reward, it's 20 million taels. CG replied, and informed Kakuzu of the details of the mission. He didn't care at all about telling Kakuzu the content of the mission before he agreed to take it. After all, Kakuzu's credibility was guaranteed. Moreover, Kakuzu was a man who knew how to handle affairs of state. If he refused, he would probably be sent to the Pure Land to see the 6-path sage by CG on the spot. Who? Kakuzu was stunned. He seemed to hear a familiar name. The head of the Hitaki clan in Konoha village, Konoha White Fang Hitaki Sakumo. Kingsi repeated it indifferently. Mr. Mizukage, Hitaki Sakumo is a high-ranking figure in Konoha village. Kakuzu took a deep breath and said, refusing to mention that he had once accepted a commission from the elder Cho of the Sand Village and had fought with Hitaki Sakumo. So, are you going to refuse? As a bounty hunter, do you still care about these things? Kingsi sighed slightly, and a barely perceptible murderous intent flashed in his eyes. No. Lord Mizukage, you misunderstood. Kakuzu was shocked and immediately denied it righteously. How could he refuse such a good job? However, he wanted to bargain with CG. What I mean is that Hitaki Sakumo has a very high status in Konoha village and was even granted the title of Hokage half-sleeve by the daimyo of the Land of Fire. After a few seconds of pause, 2 rays of light suddenly shot out from Kakuzu's green eyes. You have to pay more. Jiaoda made a huge request and he would not give an inch when it came to money. Ching Si was stunned for a moment, and immediately started to murmur in his heart, my goodness, this guy really values money more than his life. But it's better this way, such talents are easier to control, and they don't care about friendship but only interests. To put it bluntly, as long as he has enough funds, he will not worry about not being able to use Jiaoziu. After all, the thing that Ching Si lacks the most is money. As for why he didn't use the Samsara Eye to directly control Kakuzu like he controlled Kagaya and Musashi, it was because the current CG was just a shadow clone whose strength just passed the threshold of cage level. Although he could use the power of the Samsara Eye, he was still a little bit unable to control a strong man like Kakuzu. So, after sorting out his thoughts, Kingsi directly raised the price for Kakuzu, 1 price. 30 million taels. Sure. I'll take it. Kakuzu didn't bargain anymore, but accepted the offer impatiently. He never expected that the Mizukage would be so generous. 30 million taels, this is a big deal, comparable to the bounty for hunting down an S-rank rebel ninja from a major ninja village. Since his debut, he has only taken on deals of this scale 3 or 5 times. You know, the last time Kagaya Musashi hired him to intercept the 3rd Mizukage of the Hidden Mist Village, the reward was only close to 20 million taels. 30 million taels, the target is Hitaki Sakumo who I fought before, so handsome. However, Kyoshi did not give this price casually. After all, what Shimura Danzo paid to the Hidden Mist Village was a full 50 million taels. This in and out, he handed the task over to Kakuzu, and directly earned Shimura Danzo 20 million ryo. And he also completely passed on the possible risks. Of course, Kyoji would definitely not do nothing. Although he has hired Kakuzu to take action, the Kirigakure ninjas can follow behind and take advantage of the opportunity. If he can kill Konoha White Fang Hitaki Sakumo without revealing his identity, Kyoji will definitely be willing to do so. In his imagination, Kakuzu might not be able to really kill Hitaki Sakumo. Although Kakuzu was very strong, Hitaki Sakumo was no pushover either. He had both offensive and defensive swordsmanship and lightning-style ninjutsu, and he was also extremely fast. He could retreat calmly if he couldn't win. However, as long as the mission that Hitaki Sakumo is going to carry out can be destroyed, it will be enough to meet Danzo's requirements. The cage-level warriors of Kirigakure will serve as a reserve force, lying in ambush on Hitaki Sakumo's way back to the Land of Fire, and will launch a second round of assassination on him. As for whether they can successfully kill Hitaki Sakumo and make Konoha lose its sharpest white fang, it depends on how far Kakuzu can force Hitaki Sakumo. Chapter 270. However, plans can never keep up with the speed of change. In the Hidden Mist Village, the appearance of a telegram disrupted Kingsee's original plans. Mizukage Building, Mizukage Office. Lord Mizukage. Chino Kizuna came in with a telegram. The Anbu lurking in the Land of Fire sent a message that they found traces of Sheneng in the southern part of the Land of Fire, near the border of the Land of Bears. Kingsea took the telegram and quickly read it. Great. No wonder we couldn't find this person. It turns out that he was hiding in the Land of Fire. It seems that we have to fight quickly. We can't let Konoha find out. Is Lord Mizukage going there in person? Chino Kizuna's expression changed slightly as she asked. From what Kingsea said, why did it sound like he was going to go there himself? No. Kingsea shook his head and denied it, which made Chino Kizuna breathe a sigh of relief. As the shadow of a village, it is better for her to stay in the village more. Being the secretary of the Mizukage is very tiring for her. However, Chino Kizuna had no idea that the CG in front of her was just a shadow clone, and Seiji's real body had not been in the village for a long time. After thinking for a while, Ching Si decided, let Ziguishan come and let the ninja swordsman carry out this mission. This Sheneng is really something. Oh, right. Ching Si immediately remembered something and added, by the way, go to the Uzumaki clan and ask Chief Xingxi to come over as well. We'll need his perception ability this time, too. Okay. Chino Kizuna nodded, and seeing that CG had no other instructions, she turned and left the Mizukage's office to inform Ziguishan Pufferfish Demon and Uzumaki Shinki. So who is this Sheneng, and why is he worthy of Kingsee's attention? This story has to start from the First Ninja World War. In the southern waters of the Land of Fire, there was once an island country called the Land of the Sky whose entire territory was made up of islands. The Land of the Sky had its own ninja village at that time, a ninja village called the Sky Village. The Sky Ninja Village is a relatively special ninja village in the ninja world. They are not as keen on the strength of the ninjas themselves as other ninja villages. On the contrary, they have put all their attribute points on the development of chakra technology. Of course, this does not mean that the strength of the Sky Ninja is weak, but that its attack method is unique and different from that of other ninja villages. Based on the chakra technology they developed, the Sky Ninjas have created many extremely modern weapons, such as battleships, aircraft carriers, and bombers. They have also created flying ninja tools that allow all Sky Ninjas to have the ability to fly. They use chakra as power, inject chakra into the wings, and create an airflow difference between the surface and the inside to allow flying. Therefore, the air ninjas hardly use any ninjutsu when attacking, but instead use the flying ability that every air ninja can master to gain air superiority, use the unique attack mode of artillery clusters, use the ninja tools they created to convert their own chakra into air cannon-style bullets to attack, and even throw a special high-powered chakra bomb that they made themselves. What's even more outrageous is that they also built a huge fortress called Angkor Bandian by their leader Sheneng, which relies on the extraction of ninjas' physical strength and chakra as power. It can fly and stay in the air for a long time. It can also be called Angkor Fortress. The above settings are from the 5th theatrical version Naruto Shippuden, Kizuna. Anyway, this technology tree is quite outrageous. Battleships, aircraft carriers, and bombers are all made. Although they are all driven by chakra, they do look very technological. Then, the flying ninja tools worn by the air ninjas and the take-off mode are very similar to electromagnetic catapults driven by chakra. During the First Ninja World War, the Sora Ninja Village arrogantly wanted to challenge the 5 great ninja countries and the 5 great ninja villages at the same time. However, they were defeated when they attacked the Land of Fire and Konoha village. At that time, Konoha had lost the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju, and war had broken out with the other 4 major ninja villages at the same time. Therefore, it was regarded as a soft persimmon by the Sky Country, which chose it as their first target of attack. They also wanted to bite off a piece of meat from Konoha and the Fire Country and get a share of the pie. However, the Sora Ninja Village, which was only able to see the world from a narrow perspective, had no idea that Konoha also had the outrageous ability of the Nine Tails Jinchuriki to perceive malicious intent. You have to know that at that time, Uzumaki Mito had not yet retired. Therefore, before the Sky Ninjas could fly over Konoha, the strong malice had already been sensed by Uzumaki Mito. So, the air raid launched by the Sky Ninja Village on Konoha Village could be said to have ended before it even began. However, the Sky Ninja Village and the Konoha Village became enemies because of this. During the last Ninja World War, which was the Second Ninja World War, the Sky Ninja Village made a comeback and sent an aircraft carrier fleet to the southern waters of the Land of Fire, and then launched another airstrike on Konoha. This time, Konoha was not spared. At this time, Uzumaki Mito had not been involved in the affairs of the village for a long time and he himself had almost reached his limit. He was already preparing to replace the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. Therefore, the air raid on the Air Ninja Village this time was extremely successful. Countless chakra bombs fell in Konoha village, destroying a large number of buildings and killing a large number of villagers and Konoha ninjas. This caused Konoha, which was encountering such a combat method for the first time, to suffer a great loss. However, this also successfully angered the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen and all the Konoha ninjas. Konoha village's counterattack came very quickly. Through reverse tracking, they soon discovered the Air Ninja Village's aircraft carrier fleet that was staying in the southern waters of the Land of Fire and was preparing to launch a second wave of air strikes. So, things went as planned. The aircraft carrier fleet of the Sky Ninja Village suffered a devastating blow from the Konoha ninja and was completely wiped out. Afterwards, Konoha used the secret techniques of the Yamanaka clan to obtain the specific locations of the Sky Village and the Land of the Sky, and directly destroyed the Land of the Sky and the Sky Village. However, this was actually a strategy of the Sky Ninja Village to escape. It turned out that Konoha Village only destroyed the Land of the Sky and the nominal Sky Ninja Village located in the middle of the woods on one of the islands where the Sky Land was located. The real Sky Ninja Village is located below the old site of the Sky Ninja Village, which is the Angkor fortress that is temporarily buried deep underground and can fly and stay in the air for a long time. In addition, many Sky Ninjas successfully survived the crackdown by Konoha back then. The Sheneng that King C specifically asked to find was the leader of this Sky Ninja village. King C also learned this information by chance. During the Second Shinobi World War, the Underground Gold Exchange accidentally obtained the body of an air ninja. They then learned more information from the body and passed it on to CG in a timely manner. King C was very interested in the technology mastered by the aerial ninja village, especially the flying Angkor fortress. If the Hidden Mist village can obtain it, and combine it with other means it possesses, it can launch a dimensionality reduction attack on other ninja villages. So, King C began to order the Underground Gold Exchange to look for Sheneng's trace, and after he became the 4th Mizukage, he also issued this task to all the Anbu who were carrying out missions outside. However, in the memory of the Sky Ninja, he only got the name Sheneng, but not his appearance. In addition, Sheneng hid his identity strictly inside the Sky Ninja village. Therefore, for a long time, the Underground Gold Exchange Office and the Kirigakure village Anbu did not gain anything. Until today.